Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Arnold, here.
Hell here.
Stevens here.
Triola here. And we are currently missing David Modell, but we will announce him when he joins. Welcome to the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, December 2nd. I'm going to run through the agenda for tonight. And you'll note an updated format to the agenda, and this format is updated to be more accessible. So beginning with community input at 7, we will then be doing volunteer appointments. Item 3 will be approval of loan documents for the police station renovation and elevator renovation projects. That will include a vote. Following that, we'll have approval or discussion and approval of a grant conservation restriction, also a vote. At 7:35, we're scheduled to discuss the DPW building project. That's a joint meeting with the Municipal Facilities Committee. Item 6 at 8:45 is ABCC 2026 renewal certification. That's for liquor license. Item 7 is a personnel policy discussion, followed by a discussion to revise the committee creation and appointment policy. I'll note on this one, we've allocated 15 minutes. I don't expect that we'll get through all the items in that, but we will at least begin the discussion, and if we need additional time, we will likely continue that discussion at a future meeting. At 9:50, we will review warrants and minutes. 9:55, cemetery deed transfer requests, followed by liaison reports and ending with community input. So that's a lengthy agenda. So let's get started with community input. Does anyone online, and I'll note we are remote only tonight given the weather, so does anyone online have any community input that they'd like to offer? Just raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, let's move right into volunteer appointments. And for that, I'd like to begin with the appointment of, apologies if I get the last name incorrect, but Diane Staheli as a member of the Cultural Council with a term to end June 30th, 2028. And just to note, her residency has been confirmed since the last meeting. I also talked with Mark Levitan, who confirmed the Cultural Council's recommendation for her appointment. Someone wants to offer that motion?
I move to appoint Diane Staheli as a member of the Cultural Council with a term to end June 30th, 2028.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, let's take a vote, and I'll note that David Modell has joined. So David, if you could just announce yourself, and we'll include you in the roll call.
David Modell, aye.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote for the appointment to Diane to the Cultural Council.
Arnold, aye.
Modell, aye.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Viola, aye. Great. Moving on to the Fire Station Building Renovation Committee, we have 5 separate appointments to consider, beginning with Eric Ballas as the Environmental Sustainability Committee representative to the Fire Station Renovation Committee. The ESC will be meeting on Thursday to vote their confirmation. But what was determined was that we could essentially appoint him contingent on that vote of confirmation. So that's one motion. I'll just run through them all, just since there's several. Tony Mariano as the Board of Health representative to the Fire Station Building Renovation Committee. And then we have 3 residents who have submitted applications. Suzanne Spinney, who is currently serving on the the Police Station Renovation Committee. Chief Flannery submitted an application, and also Greg Zerlo. And I did have a discussion with Greg, so we can briefly discuss that when we get to it. So we have 5 separate appointments to consider here. Do we want to begin with Eric?
Sure.
Is that something you want me to address?
No, Eric, I think,
Yeah,
do we
okay.
need to hear from Eric? I mean, Eric is very familiar with the fire station project. He served on the fire apparatus committee. And I think would make a great addition to this committee.
Scott, do you want to vote on each of these separately or go through all five? And if we're all
Let's,
comfortable, just do all five at once.
why don't we go through them separately, just since Eric and
Okay.
Tony are specific board reps?
Okay.
And
So
then
would you like,
yeah,
yeah.
if you could
Would
just
you
go,
like a motion now to appoint Eric?
please.
Okay. I'm happy to move to appoint Eric Ballas as the Environmental Sustainability Committee representative to the Fire Station Building Renovation Committee, subject to ESC vote of confirmation.
I second that.
Any discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Modell, I.
Snell, I.
Stevens, aye.
Triola, aye. Motion passes. Someone could move to appoint Tony.
I move to appoint Tony Mariano as the Board of Health representative to the Fire Station Building Renovation Committee. We're going to have to come up with a shorter name, though.
I second that.
The FBS, yeah. I didn't name this one. Okay, so we have a second? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, another roll call vote?
Arnold, I.
Modell,
Snell, I.
Stevens, aye.
Triola, aye. And I think, so that motion passes. I think we can do the three residents together, and I'll just say a brief word, because I did have a call with Greg Zerlo yesterday, and he has a wealth of experience in architecture and construction documents. He served on the planning board in Lexington when he was a resident there. He's recently moved to Carlisle, and sees this as a great way to get to know the town and be involved. So it was a great conversation, and just based on his experience and his motivations to join the committee, I think he'll be a great addition to the team. And again, Suzanne is on the police station building committee, and has been a great resource for that committee. So having her join this committee is excellent. And of course, Chief Flannery has a great wealth of knowledge around the fire station and the fire department and its history and its operations. So he'll bring a great perspective from a fire department standpoint. So I think between these three residents, we have a real diversity and wealth of experience that I think will serve this committee well.
Great. I'm happy to move that we appoint Greg Zerlo, Suzanne Spinney, and David Flannery as at-large members of the Fire Station Building Renovation Committee.
I second that.
Any further discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Modell, I.
Snell, I.
Stevens, aye.
Triola, aye. And just as a final note on the fire station committee, we still need an MFC member and another at-large member who may be also an MFC member, but they're going to be meeting, I think, on Thursday.
We are Thursday morning, 9
So,
a.m.
so we'll take that up at our next meeting, but we'll get that committee up and running.
So you
All right.
said, sorry, Scott, just to clarify, we need another at-large member and another representative from MFC for the
Yes.
fire station? Okay.
And that at-large member could also be an MFC member if there are two, if they decide they want two members on that committee, or we'll have to find another member from the public. But we have five appointed, or we will have five appointed as of Thursday, so that committee can begin meeting, which we need to do since we're on a tight timeline. Great. So thank you to all the volunteers who stepped forward for both the Cultural Council and the Fire Station Committee. Let's move on to item 3, which has 5 minutes for, I think, 85 pages in our packet, but it is the approval of the loan documents for the police station renovation and elevator renovation projects. Ryan, do you want to speak to this one?
Yes, we actually have Sandy here to
Great.
give a brief introduction.
Sure. Hi.
Hi, Sandy.
How are you? So
we have before you are the documents that are awaiting your signature for a $5 million borrow. This is the $2 million borrow that we did last June is coming due in December. So we need to renew that, as well as an additional 2 million to finish the police station renovation. And then there's $1 million to go toward the elevator upgrades that was voted on last year at the town meeting as well. So I believe there are 7 pages there that await your signature, Christine. There are 2 additional pages just for you as the clerk, and we need a vote tonight to approve awarding the loan to Truist Securities. They gave us the best rate. This ban will be for exactly one year. So it'll come due next December. Hopefully by then we'll be able to do a long-term borrow and not just roll it for another year.
And the motion in the packet is to approve the vote of the select board document in particular. So you need approval on that motion, and you need our signatures contingent on that approval. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would move to approve the motions titled Vote of the Select Board and dated December 2nd, 2025, as presented in the packet.
I second that.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's take a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Modell, I.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Viola, aye. And I think that sets a record for the biggest packet document and the shortest discussion. So thank you as always, Sandy and Kelly, for all the work and all the expertise you put into these efforts. There's a lot behind these short discussions.
Thank you.
Quick question, Scott, about signatures, or maybe Sandy or Ryan, I don't know who this would be for. Do they need to be done? It sounded like from the note that Gretchen sent us that it needs to be done tomorrow morning. Was that the sense of it?
Anytime tomorrow would be great. I have to get these back to bond counsel on Thursday. I've got to send everything over to them.
Okay.
And do
And
you
so-
have them, Sandy, or are they at Gretchen? Will she have them?
Actually, I think Ryan has them right now.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they're on Gretchen's desk for signature tomorrow, and not to be presumptuous, but if the CR is passed tonight, those documents are there as well. So if people can swing by tomorrow, that'd be great. We would have had them for you tonight, but the snow
Right.
ruined that.
Can everybody get by there tomorrow? I know Barney and I will be there.
Yep.
Sounds like Christine, you've made arrangements. Travis and David, any
I'll be there.
issues?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. Thank you
Excellent.
all.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
All right, moving to item number 4, approval of grant of conservation restriction. And so there's a lot of information and motion in the packet. This motion or this approval or grant conservation has also been supported by the Conservation Restriction Advisory Committee through a unanimous vote, and has the support of Conscom, who voted to support contingent on the other vote. So that comes to us with both recommendations. Does anyone want to speak to this conservation restriction?
So Scott, we have Meredith here,
Great.
who can explain what's going on.
Good.
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Meredith Houghton. I'm with Sudbury Valley Trustees, who would be the grantee of this CR. I work on the land protection team there. So yeah, exactly right. As the chair mentioned, this matter has been brought before the Conservation Commission in their November meeting, and just last night to the CR Advisory Committee for their support as well. But yeah, so we are essentially looking for your support and signature on this conservation restriction. The restriction itself has already been approved by the state, the Department of Conservation Services, who approves this. Their signature is the last one, so the EEA secretary will sign following your approval if it is approved by you all. But this has been vetted by them and meets the state standards, and then again has been brought through the Conservation Commission and the CR Advisory Committee review. SVT, of course, approves of this draft. We wouldn't have brought it before you if we did not like it, and the landowner as well. So it's gone through a good amount of vetting to date, just so you all are. But this is a CR. 7 acres of the property, which is just over 14 acres in total. The property operates now as Sweet Autumn Farm. It's a small organic farm you all may be familiar with. And so primarily what we're looking at here is to protect that agricultural operation and future agricultural operations, and allow these soils and this important agricultural property to be maintained as such in perpetuity. There's also the scenic value component on Prospect Street, where this property is located. And as many folks are aware, this is across the street from an expansive open space corridor that connects to Esterbrook Woods and other open space. This also helps advance some of the goals of the open space and recreation plan, as well as the Massachusetts Farmland Action Plan. And I don't know if folks are aware, but at Sweet Autumn Farm now, there is a good amount of educational programming that currently takes place. The Boston School of Herbal Studies operates out of there. That is an interest of the landowner, Miss Endicott. And so the CR, of course, supports and allows that use to continue into the future. And yeah, I think, to be clear, the land will stay in its current ownership and the restriction would be granted to SVT. So SVT would be the responsible party for monitoring the restriction and enforcing it if necessary, and making sure the conservation values that we've outlined for you all stay protected in perpetuity and those special qualities are maintained. So that's kind of the gist. I am here if you guys have any questions about either procedurally or just the content of the CR. Yeah, anything I can clarify.
Two questions. One, so Ryan, from our standpoint, all the legal language and everything is in order and has been reviewed and vetted and all of that through the process, as far as we know?
That's correct. Yep.
And then in going through this process, has there been any objections raised to doing this conservation? And if so, what were the reasons for that?
No objections from the Conservation Commission or the CR Advisory Committee. They just had some clarifying questions, ensuring that, if there is any role for the town here that they should be wary of, or understanding if there's any responsibilities. The answer is no. As we mentioned, we will hold the restriction, and so any enforcement and all of that falls to SVT. There's the normal town roles with any property. If some actions were proposed within the wetland setbacks and things like that, that would of course come through the town. So there's the normal responsibilities, but in terms of the CR, that falls to SVT. There were questions about monitoring the CR and making sure the boundaries were properly located, which they have been. So just kind of questions like that to make sure folks understood we've done our due diligence and we're all kind of on the same page. But nothing of nothing of concern that came up.
I do have one question, Meredith. I saw there's provisions for trails or some type of use for the public to access this, and I know that's important to Carlisle, is to have a trail system and interconnected trails. I didn't see on the site plan anything that showed that, and I wondered if there is a provision for that, and what is the plan for public access and trails?
Yeah, so this conservation restriction is a bit different in that it is an agricultural operation, and even once the current landowner moves on, the hope is that this does stay in agriculture. And that being such, this has public access with permission of the landowner, but it is not allowing for sort of the normal public access on a publicly owned property. This is her residence, so I think, with privacy in mind and that those are her wishes. So the public access basically is as defined by the landowner, as they would like it to be. And it's not just kind of, across the board access. So that would be for special events. And, as we talked about these education programs that go on there now, it would basically continue in that same way. But there are no public trails on this property and no plans for such.
Any other questions? Forgive my ignorance, but does the SVT monitor other properties in Carlisle? I'm not as familiar with.
Yes, Woodhaven Farm across the street, actually. Yes. And there are others, I'm sure, too, but that's not off the top of my head.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, I think we can entertain a motion.
I move to approve the grant of conservation restriction of 180 Prospect Street, Carlisle, Mass. 01741, an approximately 12.77 acre parcel, more or less described in a deed recorded at Middlesex County Northern District Registry of Deeds at Book 27889, page 75, from grantor Catherine L. Endicott to grantee Sudbury Valley Trustees, Inc., pursuant to MGLC 184, Section 31-33, for the purpose of ensuring the premises will be maintained in perpetuity for conservation purposes as described in the grant of conservation restriction.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion or deliberation? All right, seeing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Odell, I.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Triola, aye. The motion passes, and thank you very much for all the work the SVT has done in support of this.
Thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. And I did express to Gretchen sort of the urgency around the signatures on this as well, which I think you just addressed. So we really appreciate your attention to this. I know it's remotely tonight kind of throws a wrench, but very much appreciated.
Yeah, and this will be part of the packet that folks will be signing tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Good, excellent, thank you. All right, I'm not sure if we're ready to move on to the DPW discussion. I see Mark Anderson did just join. Ryan, or whomever from the MFC, are we able to start that discussion, or would you prefer we do some other small items?
It would be okay with me.
Okay. Let's keep plowing forward then, and let's move on and discuss the DPW building in a joint meeting with the MFC. And Jerry, I don't know if you want to bring your meeting to order?
Since we have 3 members here, I think I need to do that. So I would like to call this meeting to order.
We'll do a roll
So
call
Eric
vote.
Ballas present.
Travis Snell here.
Jerry Larman here.
Great. So take it away. I think so just to set the stage though, the purpose of tonight is to reacquaint ourselves with the DPW project, which was presented to us earlier this year. And to, if not tonight, by the next meeting, as a select board, discuss and determine what the next steps are as we look toward the Springtown meeting and what the potential ask is as it relates to this project and design funding.
And one note, please, if I might, Mr. Chairman. This is Barney Arnold, and I just wanted to acknowledge that I am an abutter to the land in question. And and we can determine if it's appropriate or not for me to vote when we get to that.
Okay, thank you. It's a good question, Barney. Because
I know I should have thought of it earlier, but I didn't.
nope, that's fine. That's fine.
Do you mind if I do some more table setting as well?
Please.
So the select board did hear this presentation already. So Mark Anderson is here from Lero, and the MFC works through this problem. So the MFC being one of your major capital committees considering facilities took on the question of what would a DPW renovation and what would a new building look like. So to equate this to the fire station, they were serving as your committee in order to look at the conceptual design, the very first design with a cost estimate. So we're at the same spot that we were with the fire station at the fall town meeting, that we have a conceptual design, and the next step would be to get schematic design money and put the project out to bid for a bigger project. However, that's contingent on the select board being comfortable with the current design and making sure that you add project goals so that you can feel comfortable with what's being proposed. So that discussion came up earlier. You were in the middle of many things, MBTA, fire station, et cetera, and you paused that conversation until now. So tonight you have the MFC to describe the way they went through the building design process. You have the architect here to discuss that and to go over any of the report. And then you can deliberate and or discuss where you want to go, if you want to go anywhere at all.
Yeah. And I think from my standpoint, I think there's what I'd like to, what would be most helpful to me is to reacquaint ourselves with the different option or pathways at a high level that you initially talked about. And then we can discuss also the process a little bit more, that and what information and all that was considered in coming up with those different pathways. Versus I don't, and anyone else can step in, but I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on the existing condition of the building. I think we all recognize a lot of the deficiencies. And so maybe just jumping in with those different pathways and the different options that you had presented to us.
Okay, I think I can do that, and I will do it at a high level. So we looked at three different options. One was renovating the existing building. The other is replacing the existing building with a new building. And the third path was replacing the existing building with a prefabricated, a modular structure. The costs associated with those different paths, the cost for the renovation in place is just under $10 million. And that would leave us with an improved building, but with the same footprint and the same amount of space. A new building would cost about $14.2 million. And that would give a building that has about 3,000 square feet more space and substantially improves the resources of the building for furthering the projects of the DPW. The third pathway is a modular building, which costs just under $14 million, and would also be 10,000 square feet and would provide pretty much the same structure as a custom-built building, but perhaps a little less fancy. If you look at the cost per square foot for those three different paths, for the renovation path with a 7,200 square foot building, the cost per square foot would be $1,000 plus a little more. For a completely new building at 10,000 square feet, the cost would be $1,100 per square foot. And for a prefab building, the cost would be about $1,000 per square foot. So the cost for renovating the existing building actually is slightly more per square foot than the cost of a prefab building.
Jerry,
Yeah.
may I just interrupt quickly? I just wanted Mark to confirm the square footage on that, because I think that the 7,000 just refers to the bays and not the entire structure. Is that right? Or do I have that?
So the existing footprint's right around 8,000 square feet all in.
The projected?
No, that's the existing footprint, and then if you add the trailer next door, where the dwelling space would be and the meeting space, etc., that's approximately another 1,000 square feet. So you're right around nine, yeah, for the
But that
existing.
for the existing, but the
Mhm.
new structure is significantly or is larger.
Yeah, you're going to be at about 11,000 square feet with the footprint we're looking at. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Jerry, to interrupt. I just
Well, I think my summary numbers still hold that the cost per
right.
square foot for renovating the building is slightly more than the cost per square foot for a new modular building.
And
Yeah.
to be clear, the current building is an indoor a horse arena, correct?
That's how it started its life.
Well, it sounds like it wasn't modified too much. Um, but I don't know. I mean, and we can get more into the details, but it based on the existing condition and how it was created, and it doesn't seem like. What was the recommendation from the MFC? Was it one of the pathways? Because the first pathway just doesn't seem to make functional or financial sense to me.
Well, the MFC recommended path three, which is the modular building, which would save the town about a $500,000 compared to a custom built building. There's some question about whether a modular building would um, take less time to complete than a custom built building. Um, I've gotten opinions both ways. Some people think it's faster, some people think it would be about the same.
Can you talk about in the pathway? I know there's floor plans in the documentation. Can you just briefly speak to how the proposed square footage will be used at a high level and the various operational needs that drive that to inform like why the additional square footage is needed and what it basically provides the department and the town?
Well,
Is there a sketch? I know I looked through the entire document, but is there a good single graphic or image or design that would be worth looking at as you're walking us through what's
Mark,
there?
May I share my screen, or would somebody else like to? I have something ready. I can
Great.
share if you
Yeah,
like.
let's.
Great.
I
Okay.
gave you access, Mark.
One moment, please. Let me rotate a couple things and bring us in. Okay. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Not yet. Oh, there it is. Yep.
Okay.
It just enlarge.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, if I may, I'll just give you a quick shot of what we're looking at today. Is this legible to everyone?
The main structures are some of that's better.
Okay. So here you have where my hand is, the existing DPW proper, right? And then the office space directly to the plan east edge, right? Then you have the existing fuel island, which is slated for replacement in 29, I believe, and the old salt barn directly to the east. So that's the existing. Uh, Through any of the pathways, right? Except for pathway one, which we're maintaining the existing footprint, you can see the existing footprint below here in the dark graded shea rectangle, along with the office structure. And the new footprint is indicative of where our new placement would be. Um, so you can see kind of a little bit of overlap there, slight adjustment to maximize site circulation, really. So one of the improvements I'll speak about on the next slide, but you can begin to see it here. There's improved access when you enter as well as exit. So instead of all coming in this northern entry here and exiting through that, this site or both pathway 2 and 3 have a roll through scheme where trucks come in, they're double deep drive through bays, and you exit on the southern side
Mm.
and roll out this way. And we've relocated the fuel island in both pathway 2 and 3 as well to kind of maximize site flow.
So the fuel, just because I know
Oh, so
the fuel replacement is a big item, capital item in the DPW project. That would basically be replaced with in a new location, and that work would be done in conjunction with the DPW project.
So we took the liberty in planning, thinking, knowing, this takes a little bit of time to work out, that it might work out that way in terms of timing. So yes, that was the thought process.
Because that fuel station I know is a large investment. And I would hate for us to replace the fuel tank in an area or in a place that limited our ability on the DPW project.
So wait, Mark, I'm not clear. I thought you said that was being done in 2029. Is it being done now? It's not as part of this scope of work. It is 2029?
Yes, that's when it's slated to be replaced. But just thinking about general timeline of things and not knowing when this might actually, get off the ground, we rolled that into the thought process as kind of an optimal scenario, right? To really maximize site flow, et cetera, for future state.
Have you got
But
it located at a different place then in your?
Yeah, let me do a control 2 here for you, and I'll show the existing and the new side by side here.
While he's doing that, can I ask kind of a regulatory question? If you didn't touch the fuel, I mean, there could be ground contamination and all kinds of things when we talk about fuel. And I don't know the rules. If you didn't do anything with it, are you okay? And the minute you disturb it, you have to do all kinds of site work or not? Because that might be important to know.
well,
So we did. I'm sorry, go ahead.
we have to do something with the fuel pumping station, whether it is replacing it in place or in a different location. The equipment is past its useful life and needs to be replaced. That replacing it, of course, would be a good time to relocate it as well.
You're thinking in terms of architectural, and I've got my liability regulatory risk hat on right now. And I guess it seems to me we ought to get an expert who can tell us what we can and cannot do and what it would and wouldn't trigger, and then soil sample that area, because we're going to have daisies all over again. The costs will double when we have to remediate huge piles of dirt because they contaminated with fuel. I just get very nervous when we start talking about that sort of thing. So I suggest that item be taken up by some experts who really understand the rules. And we need to do soil sampling.
So
Okay.
just to show you it's a slight relocation again to optimize circulation and fueling pit stops, etc., while maintaining circulation. But you can see it was right here, kind of in line with this pathway that rolls right through to another storage facility planned south of what we're seeing here. So we've moved it just slightly southwest and rotated it to be in line with this flow through.
The clarification, in both diagrams, it looks like the fuel tank is in the same location, or is that just the
No,
versus?
so
Okay.
here, if you can see the small rectangle here,
Okay.
right under my hand. So that was more about where this green island is, this vegetative island.
So you're moving it, to David's point, you're extracting the old tank, you're putting in a new tank, and the question would be, if you do that, does that open you up to a whole bunch of additional regulatory testing requirements because you're moving it? You know what I mean? Versus replacing it. So that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I can put up the floor plan to the earlier question, just so you have an understanding of kind of the improvements, and I can highlight them quickly if you like. All right, so we've more than doubled the existing storage capacity, as well as improved kind of just flow through operations and movement with having the double deep drive-through bays. So we've increased the number of bays by double.
This is
So
the old, the existing.
no, this is the new.
Oh, this
This
is
is
the
the
new one
new.
now. Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Well,
This is the
well,
new.
Yeah,
I think we're
Mark,
you're
seeing.
showing the old one.
There we
Yeah,
go.
there we
There you
go. Yep, it's just lagging.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Okay.
that's fine. Now we see the colored floor plan of the new design.
Yeah. So yeah, we've increased number of bays and made them drive through, as you can see here. So you have the opportunity to kind of stage vehicles as you wish and pull vehicles out without moving a bunch of other apparatus, which just improves your response times, etc.
When you said you doubled the storage space, do you mean for vehicles or
Yes, for
and
the
is that
apparatus.
is it doesn't look like you've doubled the area. Is that just by virtue of having the drive-through double bays, you can fit more stuff into the bays or
That and we've increased the number of bays, right? So I think today you have, boy, it's been a minute, but I think there are maybe 4 bays currently, the mechanics bay. So yeah, here we've yeah, almost doubled the opportunity for undercover storage, I would say.
and in the existing building though, you're not doubling the square footage of bay or what that space. So is it just the current space isn't really efficient?
That part of that, so but we've also so again, we have the existing footprint for the DPW, and
Right.
then you have the office structure
Right.
directly adjacent to it. So in the DPW by itself, yes, is significantly smaller in terms of square footage. We've added a couple thousand square feet extra to the overall facility from a program perspective to kind of envelop that office trailer program piece under one roof here.
So all of that, the trailer, all of that would be removed and
Yes,
hopefully,
this would replace that exactly. It's all
yeah.
under one roof, connected. You can see, you have a public entry at the northern facade here, and more of an employee work entry at the southern edge. And this whole eastern edge is administrative and dorm sleeping area, as well as some supporting functions along the seam. Then some small supporting functions here with the tool room, mechanics office, etc., and storage up above all of this area. It's more of a loft style storage space.
And do DPWs have a similar or analogous concept to fire stations where there's separation of certainly bad air, but any kind of chemicals or contaminants from the living space or the workspace? I'm sure it wouldn't be
Abs
as strict or as comprehensive as a fire station, but is that concept baked in here?
no, you're absolutely right, and we have a hard line here, right? This is the seam. I'll draw a line.
Yep.
That edge right there provides a nice seal between those two functions. Yeah. Certainly. No, these vehicles are very much like anything you would see in a fire station, right? All big vehicles running off the same type of fuel source. So it's certainly the same type of sensitivity.
And so with regard to the vehicle bays, again, when folks are looking at this and when you're looking at the number of recommended bays, I'm assuming this accommodates the current fleet and likely builds in some appropriate space for maintenance and potential future growth slash flexibility?
So this doesn't house every last piece.
Okay.
That's the thing. So we tried to maximize the site, and I'll go back one slide so you can see what we're up against here. And we did only look at this site. We didn't look at any others. But we are up against a wetland boundary here, right? So we will have to go in front of the Conservation Committee
Mhm.
regardless. But the good news is, we made a slight shift with our footprint, but you can see, there's a little bit of overlap here, and we're trying to maximize what we can provide on the site while still making it kind of optimal from an operational standpoint. But we're actually kind of in the buffer area less than the existing footprint. So I don't think you're going to see uh, any more restrictions upon this parcel, based upon what we're looking at today with this footprint. But we did try to maximize it, and I guess to your point, we're still not capturing every last piece of equipment. There is a list at the end of the report, and we tried to maximize what we could with the site that we have.
So Mark, that list, if I read it correctly, had 2 vehicles that were outside. Is that right? And then are those same 2 vehicles are going to remain outside? Is that the idea?
I can't speak to which 2 vehicles were going to be
Well, you've
outside.
noted them as being outside on this list. Storage location says outside next to 2 of them. Or is it 3? I can't read this.
Oh, right here. Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's one right here, here.
Yeah, and so are all 3 of those still, or the 3 of these on the inventory, I don't know if it's necessarily the same vehicles, will be stored outside?
Yes, there still will be a need for some residual pieces, right? Whether they're kind of stored in their current state or not. Yeah. Now, my sense is that more pieces than are noted on this list that say outside are actually outside, but
Yeah, because there's a fair amount of equipment.
yeah, I'm
Right.
not sure. This was a list. I think the Jim at the time he gave us what he had, but I'm not sure the nomenclature about where it exists today is completely kind of accurate.
And in terms of the components of a modern DPW building, I mean, obviously having appropriate base space and maintenance space and work and living areas does the proposal include kind of all the spaces you would typically see? Is there anything that's omitted from this design or included that you normally wouldn't see? I mean, going back to it, it seems fairly straightforward in terms of some bunk rooms, some common area, office.
Yeah, if I may, I'll share the program with you if you can
Sure.
see this. So, we started out to your point, right? So this is a very pared down facility compared to what we do see. And I know that the Carlisle community is taking care of some other pieces that sometimes we see integrated into a DPW, some shared uh,
Is,
program pieces,
is there
et
any
cetera.
way to enlarge this, Mark? It's pretty hard to read.
How's that? There might be a delay. Let me know.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So there's really 3 distinctive areas that we're looking at. There's a small public piece, which is the entry node. Then you have the administrative area, which was off to the plan easterly edge of the plan we were just looking at, and that has a couple offices, bathroom, small amount of storage, dorm areas, uh, minimal bathrooms to support that. Um, Actually, I think we're taking care of it with one unisex full shower area, a small kitchen and pantry and then you have the bay area itself.
So like in our current building, if you know this information, like maintenance bays, does this improve our maintenance? I know our maintenance bay condition isn't very good. Does this dedicate more space to maintenance bays or less or?
Oh yeah. So this 4 bay nomenclature is your existing, that's what you have. And so if we look at our new plan, right, I believe we have 7
Okay.
and they're slightly deeper, right, to accommodate the double deep piece, which would easily accommodate 2 large pieces of equipment, right? I think it's 80 feet from north to south. And that's kind of a similar parameter we use in fire station design for a double deep apparatus bay. So you have, lots of good space there. So we increase the width by 3 more bays and increase the depth, as well as having the pull through option. So significant increase. Like I say, I don't think we're going to be able to accommodate all the parts and pieces under Jim's purview, but it's a definite increase, net positive.
Scott, I can answer that question a little bit better in terms of the town's approach to space usage. Right now, the mechanics bay is one of those bays,
Yeah.
but it's converted and it's not deep enough. So for small vehicles, there is a lift in there that can be used. For the larger vehicles, they have to keep the door open in order for the vehicles to fit inside and or send that vehicle out for maintenance somewhere else because of the space. So the way this is configured, the mechanic can work on any piece of equipment undercover. And it's one of the big issues in the winter in terms of both safety and efficiency. So keeping all the doors open all the time is not great for heat. And if you close them right now, that's a dangerous situation or an unsafe situation for our employees. So we kind of have both problems at the same time.
Right. So the new building will provide adequate ventilation so that engines can be left running while work is being done on them, and their exhaust will be vented to the outside.
I think one of the key takeaways in looking at the fire station, obviously storing equipment outside can be penny wise and pound foolish when you look at the cost of the equipment over time. And if you can extend the life of equipment by keeping it in a conditioned housing, that can more than offset the added construction cost of the extra space. So does this design also allow more vehicles to be stored inside, or is it just provide better space and more maintenance space?
Oh, no. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say it accomplishes both. That was one of the goals the MFC had when looking at this.
But again, the footprint of the building is determined by the wetlands that surround it.
Mhm.
This is about as big as you can go, in other words.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. To meet the turning radiuses, et cetera. So we did look at this through the lens of having municipal vehicles come through here with a ladder truck, et cetera, navigating around the site and coming through here for a fuel stop.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think most bays will accommodate 2 vehicles. Is that right, Jared?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And these bays you said would be similar to a fire station bay. So in the world where you had to do some maintenance on a fire truck, I don't know, you do it here, you do it at the fire station, but you'd have the extra option, it would seem, that doesn't exist today.
So typically we see that happening in DPW buildings, and yes, we can easily accommodate that.
Because we don't really do that today, do we? Or do we do fire truck maintenance at the DPW sometimes?
I don't think so.
This would allow for that, to your point. Yeah.
And then in the documents I looked at in the packet, there was discussion of a storage space that did I understand this correctly, that it's a temporary storage while the work is being done on this renovation?
Yes, exactly. That was part of our discussion.
And
And that is in the appendix, exactly right. And because we're just looking at this site in order to maintain operations, we would want to be looking at, being able to maintain those through avenue like that.
so where is the plan to put the storage? And it looks like, is it a rental? You're going to rent some kind of a structure?
Yes, we looked at two pathways. One was a purchase versus a rental. And I think given everything that we talked about, the rental is probably definitely the best way to go forward for the town of
And
Carlisle.
and also just to point out, whether we do either of the three pads, it will be necessary to store equipment offsite.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
During construction, yeah.
And what's the estimated? I know you don't have the detailed construction documents, but what's the sort of current estimate on how long it would take once the project began?
Yeah, I think that was around, let me scroll up here. I think we were looking at okay, here we go. Yeah, pathway one was about 9 months, and pathway two and three, the better part of a year.
Okay.
But again, pathway one reminds me of kind of option zero or whatever it was, where it's like you put all this money in and you end up with something that has a useful life of like 0 years because it's not meeting the base requirements. And
Yeah,
there's
the challenge with pathway one, if I can just enter or add two for a minute, is you get into a bunch of code triggers, right? Like the envelope is in severe disrepair. So as soon as we start attacking that and redoing the envelope, then that triggers system upgrades, just by virtue of code, et cetera, and how much you're touching any particular building. So what seems like a more affordable option quickly snowballs into something, that doesn't seem to make sense, right? When it's all said and done.
it was never built. I mean, it wasn't. It's similar to
Right.
the fire station that didn't have an architect when they built it.
Mm,
It was never built as a dedicated DPW, or it was, but it was using a horse barn basically. So it's not like it was built to a specific function. You kind of the town kind of retroed something that you wouldn't build it like that. So to spend that kind of
correct.
money around a structure that really wasn't the intended purpose just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and to piggyback on Jerry's intro here, just to be completely transparent, the square footage costs are what they are. We did add in the site improvement cost to pathway one as well, just for a complete apples to apples comparison. So, when you look at an overall project square footage cost, we're incorporating that into the thinking as well. Now, you could leave any site improvements out of that, but you're still stuck with what you just said, right? Which is a betterment to a building that has a short life on it, I suppose, and doesn't really improve your day-to-day operations that much.
I'm also assuming that like the septic requirements don't really change that much in this new design. I mean, we'd obviously that would have to be looked at and coordinated with the Board of Health, but it doesn't look like there's a whole step change in terms of septic requirements.
Correct. And I know this analysis was built upon work you had done in 2020, right? We're utilizing that work and not redoing it. We would be adding in a sewer injector pump, but that's about it.
But
And to,
in that same vein, Scott, the big addition to this is a underground cistern of pretty substantial
right,
size. And I think we touched on that at the last meeting, or we talked about it. That's one of the costlier site items that is in this, and I think should be considered as how we address that relative to its size
for the fire system,
for
correct?
the fire system.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it might be if we decide to move forward with this in any way, shape, or form, right? There was some information we were not able to get a hold of to that point, so we accommodated the storage cistern. There might be an opportunity to do away with that, but that would be on the next leg of effort. That would be an important piece to tackle.
Or at least to reduce its size.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that cost, Travis, is that part of the current estimate, the assumption of the cistern?
Yes.
Okay. And to David's earlier question, say you couldn't move the fuel system, or it was just triggered a whole slew of issues and problems. Could the proposed options work with the existing fuel station location? Or
Yeah.
is that contingent on moving the fuel station, meaning
I-
that's a critical path item we
If,
need to
if
figure
I
out?
interject, Scott, regardless, I think the town will be obligated to upgrade the system. There are
Yeah,
certain lives to the tanks that, and at the end of their life, they have to be replaced. And as David points out, testing, when you test, you're going to test this site. So if you determine there's, a leak or something, we're going to deal with it in any event,
okay,
whether it remains where, and I believe that to be the case, but we can get an expert to validate that.
yeah.
Yeah, let me just jump in. I think if you're talking about, strategically, our plan for Springtown meeting to present something, we should have those questions addressed, right? We owe the town people, a full analysis, and that should include the implication of that. So
Yep.
we should test before we, go with a request.
Yep.
Do we have funding to test? Ryan, can we do that work?
Do we have funding for that right now? No, we do not.
So there's not a way to get the information before town meeting about whether there is any contamination.
No, but it's to everyone's point here now that they've said that, I do think that we should build that into the design ask and do that first.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you could give us a sense for the useful life for these buildings. What is end of life for these, and is there any difference between pathways 2 and 3?
Shouldn't be.
So no difference really between pathway 2 or 3 in terms of lifespan. I think you're looking at 60 plus years.
60. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow.
And with regard to pathway 2 and 3, I'm assuming, is it the same essential floor plan under either scenario, or?
It is,
And so
yes.
would you, in the design phase, I guess, do you need to know pathway 2 versus pathway 3 before the quote unquote full design phase? Do you commit to one of them, or does the design phase inform or confirm the pathway that was preferred? Do you know what I'm asking?
I
Like
do.
when you get in the design phase, is an outcome, we can't do prefab, so it has to be pathway 2, or is it based on the design and the construction method, we do recommend prefab, or does that have to be decided before that funding is applied?
No, you can. So when we worked with the prefab entity for this report, right? They were looking at this floor plan. So essentially, what they cover and quoted was this floor plate with exception of these recessed entry points. So
Yep.
pure rectangle building, no layered coverage. They only take care of the shell. So walls and roof and structure, and the fit out happens under the GC. So all of the interior programming pieces, which is relatively minimal here, they provide all of the fenestration openings, but the GC infills them with whether it be a garage door or glazing, etc. So operationally, the plan would remain the same. You lose maybe a couple of niceties architecturally. We have an awning out front. They might that might get trimmed back a little bit. I can give you a glimpse of the exterior is a very simple, efficient design with a 5-degree shed roof on it to accommodate future solar. And that's in line with the way the sun travels around this site. So it's, in terms of geometry, it's very streamlined. Simple metal skin, etc.
For the community, I know like right now we basically do hazardous waste. I don't know what else you would possibly do at a DPW, but are there any other community benefits aside from supporting the department and their operations that this would offer? Um, Sorry, I think I've frozen up. People frozen or can you?
No,
I
I'm
think
not
Um,
sure. If
Barney's
Mark, if
froze.
you
I'm
want
looking
to,
at Barney. I think she froze out.
I can hear you.
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, the question was community. Are there any other community benefits, whether it be better supporting hazardous waste collection or any other additional things that the community would consider?
Well, it will make it easier for people with disabilities to access the building, the offices.
Okay.
I think Eric Ballas had raised his hand. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, I was just a little bit off of the current discussion. I was trying to recall for the meetings that I was able to attend. Is the shed roof flexibility the same between the modular design and the custom built design?
Yes,
So we
sir.
don't lose any flexibility on the shed roof angle or anything like that. Okay,
Correct.
thanks.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember that.
Are we going to add solar to that?
I mean, given the climate leader opportunities, that is right now, that's an unbelievable asset for the town, perfectly south facing. The amount of power that we produce from that, the capability is just, we would make up the first costs in a short period of time.
But
So
is that in the cost estimate presently?
I do not
No, it
believe it
is
is.
not.
So we should take an action to add that.
Well, but that probably would want to be done separately because of all the rebates and other incentives that are available.
Well, that's a separate issue. I mean, we step it up a level. Let's just get out of the minutia and go up a level. So, Scott, when you presented the fire station at the special town meeting, in your model you alluded to the DPW coming online, and did you use a number that is approximately pathway 2 or 3?
Yeah, we said 15 million
All right.
as
So we've
a
sort of
ballpark
overspec it in a
initial.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I mean, we've sort of already socialized that idea with the town people, and they voted the fire station knowing that there was a project behind it and that the average tax bill would go up by $1,000 or whatever. So that's no new news. I wouldn't get too tangled up in the weeds. I think we owe, again, if we're angling toward a similar presentation at Springtown meeting, as we had at fall town meeting, but for the DPW, then we're asking for design funds with a, ballpark all-in cost of a full project, and we should just add all that stuff in. And if we save a little money because of rebates and blah blah blah, okay, fine, that's great. But I think let's just, I wouldn't get it overly complicated. I think it's important, as Mark said, we have it's a good location for solar, and it's a good flat surface for solar, and we should kind of emphasize. I think that would help us. That's, I guess, maybe. Now I got one other question, which is what paid for Low-High Rose time so far? I don't remember how we authorized that.
So this came from authorized MFC funds to look at town facilities.
Okay. But there's no extra funds like that if we were to do a soil sampling or something else between now and Springtown meeting?
There is not.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, essentially what we're looking at from a select board standpoint is we either, support the conceptual design and take the next step of asking for the design funding, or you go into Springtown meeting and ask for additional funding to do more conceptual design, right? And that'll, I don't know if that's similar to what we asked for the fire station. It's 100K. I don't know what it is. But you're also probably delaying the project likely a year, which is, another big issue. It's just as we know, the escalating costs of construction aren't expected to abate. So, there's just general urgency around this project as well, given the state of the existing building, given escalating costs, all those factors. So we're kind of
Yeah, I agree with you, Scott. I think to me, we've set the stage. The voters, I believe, again, going out on a limb here, but I believe that people are sort of they're understanding that we have the intersection of three capital projects in, sort of one kind of period of time. They've approved the police station. They've approved the fire station. I think they're going to approve this. And then we have to say, those are the three big projects, and we're going to take a break after that. But let's not be too shy. Let's include the things we need. You already socialized 15 million. It probably will be 15 million by the time we get done with all the, site work and remediation, and solar and blah, blah, blah. It probably will be 15 million. And then, it's okay. And let's get done with that, because I'm concerned, and this is, beyond the scope of this particular discussion, but I am concerned that a few years after that, we may face overrides if we bump up against the levy limit, right? So let's get all this, let's clear the decks. Let's get these projects approved and let's move on. I agree. I think we should not ask for more money for the study of the study. We should just say, okay, this is our best estimate. We're asking for these design funds, and this is the vision, and etc., as we did with fire station. So I'm supportive.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah, when we initially looked at it, we had, I think some of the questions were around, do we need all this, the space, and I think a lot of the small details around the floor plan and the layout will naturally evolve and change during a design phase. But in terms of where we're at, conceptual design, we're kind of locked into a footprint by virtue of the space. I think we all support keeping it where it is, building a new building, and so. You can cut it a lot of different ways, but I think you're going to end up at about the same place. So, to me, it would make sense to move forward to the next step of the design, full design and construction documents. And then, we can talk about timing, but if we get the approval for that at town meeting, maybe I don't know if the bullseye is a special town meeting or just the following Springtown meeting where we're looking for full project funding, and it would be offset a year from the fire station rather. Which is, I think not ideal, but reasonable for the town.
But what do we have? What do we have funding for right now till spring to do? Because I'm not clear.
So, David, you don't have any funding. So this would be, again, where we were at with the fire station going into the fall town meeting. So you have this conceptual design, and the next step is to ask for the design money. So we would prep for the ask, but in terms of any funding, there is none.
So there's nothing we can scrape out of somewhere else to do some stuff to advance the ball from where we are today in the next, 6 months.
I mean, later in the year, there might be some money that opens up, but as of right now, given the scope of what you're talking about, there isn't any fund that exists.
In an ideal, right, let's do the other way. Let's do the Bill Gates approach. In other words, if money was not an impediment, what would we like to do between now and time? What would we like to have prepared for town meeting in the spring that we don't today have, besides all the work that Mark and his team have done?
So the one difference between this and the fire station is you did a lot of that site work and testing prior to the fall town meeting. So your numbers were a little more accurate.
Right.
So that would be what we would.
That's accuracy. Okay. We can live with a degree of inaccuracy, but in terms of hard data designs, I mean, they've done a fair amount of work, 3 options. If we are proposing, say, option, I don't know, 3, I guess, the modular one, I don't know which of 2 and 3 we're going to end up with. But, if we pick one of those options, do we need more stuff? In people's opinion, including Mark's opinion, and what would that cost?
Well, the only thing I can think of, and your point about testing the soil around the fuel tank is one thing that can be done. We have surveys of the wetlands; those have been done previously. I'm not sure what else.
Okay, so from a footprint, all right. So from Jerry, from a footprint, like an architect's view of the plan, you're pretty happy with what you see. You can pick one and make a presentation out of that.
I believe so.
Okay, good. So now maybe could we tap some Conscom or Board of Health? Is there some other pot of money we can tap to? Julie had a groundwater study. I don't know if she spent all that money. Is there some other pot of money we can do to do a little more like testing, hydrology or something like that? We don't have to answer tonight, but it would seem like we should be a little more creative and try to see if we can tap some money somewhere to do that.
One thing I might suggest, David, that we could do that wouldn't necessarily cost money, but is involve those 2 boards that you just mentioned, Conscom, because there is a major component of this project that involves the wetlands. And to date, I don't think they've really been apprised of what's going on. And I think if we, politically reach out and do a lot of legwork ahead of time, I think we'll be ahead of the game in our permitting and our processes and making sure everyone's on board. And that same with the board.
Yeah, I agree. And I think just more broadly, as we've learned, the more boards and committees we can get to endorse whatever it is we're proposing, the better, right? So we should definitely work to that.
There is the motion or proposed motion that Gretchen added around, are we at, if there is support, we can also form a building committee and form the charter. I don't know that we need to do that tonight, but that's something we could and should do in advance of or following this meeting or the subsequent meeting. And those people, we can think about putting, like we did for fire station, putting a Board of Health member on this committee, putting a Conscom member on this committee so that they can get into the process and at least get up to speed and review and chime in on all these things and answer the questions that may be asked and raised prior to town meeting.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think we took on as a select board a disproportionate share of that
Yeah.
right, prior to town meeting. And now, only now today did we actually form the building committee after it had already been approved. But
Right.
probably a smarter way is what you just said. Like, let's get the building committee engaged now and make it their issue and let them analyze it and think about the things we can do for no money, or little money.
Mark,
Yeah, there may already be info and data out there that we don't know about that Conscom has access to or guidance they can give.
and since we have Mark on the phone, Mark, you had some ledge assumptions. I think that would be another big variable, in addition to the testing for the fuel to make sure that we don't have any unknown risk there. But the rock outcropping that is kind of located on the southern part of the site there, is that something that we could test for, or does that just is that discovered as they start excavating?
No, we certainly could, and that's a good point. And I was just thinking of bringing that up as something to think about, right, between now and spring. And we covered, I think, 5 feet below the surface, not knowing how deep it goes. So yes, that could and probably should be explored a little bit more, geotech. Yeah.
So,
Scott, I had two quick questions if I could.
yeah, please, Eric.
Just from an order of magnitude, since I haven't been directly involved in this before, but what would the approximate cost be for soil testing? And then also the second suggestion from Travis on some of the subterranean impediments, right? Ledge and stuff like that. I mean, what kind of dollars are we talking about for that kind of exploratory work? Anybody have a ballpark?
Based off of the cemetery work and the fire station, I was just trying to pull that together, Eric. I would say 50 to 100,000.
Okay. That's useful. And then the other question was, and this is maybe more for Mark, is there any benefit to increased fidelity of the cost estimate at this point based on the design? Or have we gone about as far as we can given the level of the design and you can only do so much with costing the construction?
I think we're at a good point for the level that we're at. So PMNC, not sure if you're familiar with them, but we've worked with them a lot and they're very accurate even from feasibility through construction. So we have a pretty good comfort level with them. And we did talk through this process with them at a pretty good length on the front end. So I think, until a couple more stones are unturned, pun intended. Yeah, I think we're as close as we're gonna get, really.
So
Okay,
let me comment on both of those comments by Eric. So one is, I guess it's a question for Ryan maybe. If I'm a homeowner and I want to build a wing on my house, and they have to do a geotech to see if there's ledge and wetlands, blah blah blah, I have to put up some kind of money to pay for that, right?
Yes.
And so that's similar here, except the town is the one that would have to put up the money. If we were proposing something and we wanted to do some geotech analysis to the point you just mentioned, 50 or 100K, we would have to come up with that money to pay for that, right?
Correct.
Okay. The second question, so I don't have an answer for that, but the second question goes to the cost estimate. And so we're here in fiscal 26. We're going to go to town meeting in a fiscal 27 budget. We're going to ask for design funds, right? Not construction funds, design funds. So it sounds like it's a fiscal 28 construction project. And it's maybe a Mark question. Did you factor in like an inflation estimate in what your number?
Yeah, so we carried 4% for escalation.
Yeah, which is low in today's environment, I would say, right? Yeah. So so I mean, it's more for us. It's more for us internally when we present is probably to increase the contingency to cover timing issues of that.
Yeah, maybe 6%.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And as to the answer to the first question, I don't have a good answer unless we can find somebody. Maybe, you know, the Ryan McLean Memorial DPW shed rings very well if he wants to put 100,000 into the. Yeah. Right. Okay. So we have to deal with that. But I like the idea of creating a committee and making them sort of their mission to kind of work the issues through to town meeting. That seems like a good thing to do.
Yeah.
There's a draft charter in the packet that Gretchen pulled together based on the fire station one that we could vote on tonight, or we could revisit at the next meeting or a future meeting. Do people want to create a committee tonight?
I wouldn't. I think can we home
Yeah.
in on pathway 2 or 3? Do we need to decide that?
Well, that's where I don't know if pathway 2 or 3 you need to decide prior to design. If
Okay.
you know what I
So,
mean, like
right.
you,
Yeah.
construction method, the footprint, and maybe you do, but I don't know that.
No, I agree with you.
I don't.
I think it's a good job for that committee. So what do we need to do tonight?
I think we
Right.
just need to kind of
Mr.
express.
Chair, so one variable here is timing, and I just want to pull the board for timing. So you are going to ask for, in theory, the fire station is ready for annual town meeting in May. You're going to
Yeah.
have a significant ask for that building plus a ballot question. So
Right.
the question I have is, are you going to add the DPW design costs and ballot question and then try to go for a fall town meeting? Or is this something that you want to push a year? How do you want to time the two projects? Do you want to do it all at once, or do you want to space them out? I think you should have that discussion.
So there's
Yeah.
So there's a political and there's an operational component to that question. The political question is, do you risk people rejecting the fire station or the request for DPW funds because you've paired them in the spring? So that's a political question. The operational question for you, Ryan, is how long can Jim hang on?
So in the timing that I just discussed, I think we'd be okay. So if it's a 2-year decision, if you wanted to wait 1 year, then that would be fine. It would obviously increase costs, so there's that variable. But I think this problem is going to, just like the fire station, require an answer in a 5-year time frame. So it does have to be decided at some point.
Well, we're not going to kick the can that far down the road. But so do you perceive political risk in the intersection of the two asks as you just proposed for spring?
And you know I like to be decisive, but that is what I'm asking you.
David, I seem to remember Scott presented at special town meeting. I mean, Scott, remind me, what did you present a time horizon for DPW, or did you just say something like close on the heels of the fire department?
I said next year we'd be back with,
That's what
potential
I
ask for
thought.
DPW.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I don't see what delaying the ask for the design funding gets us if you kick it a year. I mean, at that point, the cost of the fire department will start hitting tax bills. So the two are linked. No matter what we say or do, there's not going to be a magic way to smooth that out. But I think we primed people at special town meeting. I think you come back with the ask and let the town decide, if they want to support both. And I think they will, if we provide the requisite information and background.
Yeah.
I think holding it past, if you don't do it at special town meeting for the design funding, you wouldn't have a fall town meeting for design funding just on its own. So you might not have a fall town meeting. So you might not be back for another year for design funding. It's just sitting on the shelf for 2 years almost.
I think
That
there's
seems-
some momentum already
Yeah.
having been
Yeah.
built, and I would think stalling out would not be wise.
Well, and you're stalling out to try to
I
for
know.
political reasons, which I think we should just be straightforward and transparent and give our recommendation, and the town can tell us to hold our water if
Hmm.
you know, if they can't support both, and then in which case we go back and we come back the following year with something else or the same ask.
Yeah.
But it does put pressure on the overall budget discussion, which we're going into headwinds regardless with the operating budget.
Yeah, to be clear, everything that was forecasted and discussed in your financial discussions included both of these projects. But now, I don't want to say it's a little bit more real, but it's definitely more tangible. So there's a scenario where the fire station design is not done for annual town meeting, but you're asking for DPW design funding. And then you're going to have to time the fire station project with the time it would take to finish the DPW document. So I'll ask Mark, just throwing this out there, how long would it take a firm like yours to go from this conceptual design to a bid?
6 months.
So June, July, August, I'm counting my fingers.
Like,
Yeah, you're looking at November again.
Well,
on the aggressive side, like that's with no late November
of 26.
26.
26.
Well,
But yeah,
I mean, I think our voters are sophisticated enough to distinguish capex from opex. I really feel like people kind of understand that. So I think there's support to Scott's point. I think there's support. You know, we've already presented it. We socialized it. We say, look, we got these 3 buildings. We got to do these things, blah, blah, blah. So I think they're going to support it. What they're going to do then is say, all right, great. What are you doing for me with regard to OPEX? Right? That's where the pinch point will be. And that's a much thornier, in a way, discussion because we've got a school committee rec that already wants like 6% or whatever they want. And, you know, costs are just going faster than the 2.5.
yeah.
So that's, to me, a more pressing sort of operational decision. I'm totally in favor of what I'm hearing, which is press ahead, take the advantage. We've presented 3 buildings. We've got 2 passed, pretty much. Well, 1.5 passed, I guess. And, you know, let's just keep going. I wouldn't stop.
Do we need to, so we can form the building committee in the not too distant future, and get that up and running. Is there anything else, Ryan or Jerry, that you need tonight aside from kind of the select board support to press forward toward special town meeting or toward annual town meeting?
Scott?
Not really.
Okay.
And do you
A
want
decision would be good.
Scott,
a formal vote
Well,
of
Travis, do you have
support tonight or?
a comment?
I just had a question, because maybe it could be decided, but we talked about the design for either the second or third option, which is new construction, either, you know, a prefab structure or not. And I'm wondering, and maybe Mark, if you have thoughts on that, but is that something that should and be done in tandem, or should we be making that decision ahead of time? Because I think that's a pretty important process to understand.
I think you can do it in tandem, Travis. And, you know, so there is this immediate thought that prefab would be cheaper, right? And so we went through that exercise. And it was funny because we had an in-depth conversation with the cost estimator at the front end of this as well, thinking just that. And he's like, you know, it would surprise you. We really don't see it without scale, right? So the bigger your footprint, right? That's when you begin to realize the savings. So I think that the differential is so small, and you know the differences in terms of eliminating those 2 covered entryways, that really doesn't affect your program at all. They're nice to haves, but Something like that to me is fairly minuscule and can be decided later.
But does it impact your timing? So if you were to then go through with the design, schematic designs of this, you're down two paths. It probably costs more money to do that. And I'm wondering about timing.
Oh, so we would want to decide that, once, if we were fortunate enough to move forward with this, that would be something we would want to decide on the front end of that process. But I don't think it has to be decided until design starts, right? No,
Well, and I would just like to point out at the select board that the difference in custom built and modular, at least with the information we have right now, is $500,000. That is not an amount of money to be ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And also with the timing of the architectural work required and the, if it takes you longer, you need more resources to deal with the two paths. And you said, well, you can decide right before you start, but we're not going to know anything more between now and when we get the funding, if the town votes for it, to decide. So unless there's something that I'm missing.
So from our standpoint, it's really how we're going to package it, if it's prefab versus not, right? And how we kind of make that scope clear in the bid documents and kind of isolate, right, for the shell, right, for the prefab pieces, right, in coordination with our engineer. But it's really how we package it, for the bid piece.
Okay.
And I would say whatever the most cost effective, aesthetics aren't that important here, and whatever the most cost effective approach is. So if prefab achieves the floor plan and all of the objectives and is less, then great, do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know enough
Well, and
about.
the DPW building committee can do a lot of things for $0, right? I mean, they can query industry people about where prefab is going. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do that basically don't cost anything just by asking questions. So I think I like the idea of not presupposing option pathway 2 or 3, just kind of give them that mission and say, look, here's your mission for now till spring. Figure out what the path you recommend is, figure out all the possible contingencies that you can think of when you talk to people, finalize your recommendation and package it up. That's plenty to do. And then they'll have a reasonably high fidelity proposal, and that'll be fine.
Yep.
So I think we can design a charter for those guys, in the next month or so, and set them up, and that'll give them a few months to work.
Yeah, we'll want to get that formed definitely in January because
No, I wouldn't wait. But I don't think it's it's not a huge lift. It's like a very specific thing. You need to do these things by May. So, and then, if it's approved, you'll roll into actually being a building committee. But right now, do these things. Things be fine.
Yeah, no, it's a fair lift because you got to start socializing and doing everything in March.
Oh, there's a lot to do. There's plenty to do. It's just not. We have no money, right? So it's not things where you have commission a study. You just have to go call experts and get information and put it together and discuss it. It's actually, in a way, it's more empowering of the committee than it is of the experts, because the experts are only going to give you, their opinion based on no funding, and the committee actually has to do the work and think about it.
All right, we're going to wrap up this section. I think Mark needs to jump off. So do we want to? I mean, it sounds like, and speak up if otherwise. There's the select board's expressing its support. I don't know if we want to make a motion or a vote. I don't think we need that, but we can form a charter in an upcoming meeting. But that, I think I support, and it sounds like the other, and if you don't support it, please speak up. But moving toward the Springtown meeting with the conceptual design is the path we want to take.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'm good.
In the remaining few minutes, it's not for discussion tonight, but Tom Bellata, who's on the line, did contact me and was asking about this discussion. He's on the Transfer Station Advisory Committee. And if you're familiar, they were asking to meet with the Select Board in conjunction with the DPW project to discuss their recommendations for the transfer station expansion slash renovation. I'm not sure what the right term is. I guess my high level question is, one, from the MFC standpoint, is this something that you've looked at all with regard to the DPW project in particular? And two, from a select board standpoint, figure out the timing to have them come in and meet with us.
The MFC has not looked at it as part of the building renovation or rebuild, although there will be some paving that will be part of that project, and there might be some cost savings if those paving projects are done at the same time. But it may not be a substantial amount of money. I just don't know.
Okay. It seems like, though, the timing of I'm just trying to line up the timing where we have a design phase to go through for the DPW. I think we should have the Transfer Station Action Committee probably in January, though, to give us an overview of what they're thinking about, so we can discuss that and see if there are efficiencies. Go ahead.
My understanding of the project is that it doesn't really impact the building project other than the access road to the DPW site and the transfer station, and what effect rolling heavy equipment down that road might have if that paving happens prior to the DPW building.
You'd be crazy to do a paving before major construction.
Right.
Period. Just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Right. I guess it's something that, and I think Tom is off the line. I'll go offline with Tom and I think when they talked to us last, and I don't recall specifically, but I think we said as a select board, we wanted to understand what they were requesting, so that there were efficiencies and it was a project we wanted to pursue, we would consider that. But I think we can cover that off at a later meeting, and we will, because we don't have time tonight. So I'll get with Tom and figure out when to schedule that. Okay. Is there anything else on this topic, or do we want to move forward to talk about liquor licenses?
Do we adjourn the MFC part?
Oh, yeah, please. Thank you.
Yes, we should.
Motion to
Do I
adjourn?
have a motion to adjourn, Eric?
So made.
And a second?
Second.
All
Eric,
in
aye.
favor? Snell?
Eric, aye.
Snell, aye. Adjourn.
Lerman, aye. So we will be adjourned at 8:43.
Very good.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
And
you.
thank you,
for
Mark.
all your work.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to the ABCC 2026 renewal certification. And I know Gretchen had provided some commentary on this one, that we are basically informing whomever that we are not renewing a license. I don't know, Ryan, if there's any better explanation you can provide beyond what Gretchen said, but this seems like a pretty straightforward motion and request. Unless
Yeah, so I practiced this with Gretchen so I wouldn't get it wrong, because she's going to watch this and watch me get it wrong. But what happens is you annually certify your licenses. Normally you would certify a license, but you don't have any right now. So you're just certifying what you have, and right now what you have is nothing.
So
You have to do it regardless, but sometimes there is a license you need to approve.
right. So
Yeah,
basically,
I think the term in the motion is no active license on file.
right. And then the future, or whatever, if someone needs a it needs to be a new request essentially at Fern's, under new ownership.
Right.
So this seems like a fairly straightforward administrative thing, unless I'm missing something. Okay,
Yep.
guess I'm not. Does someone want to make the motion? Number 6.
I lost my packet, so I gotta find it
Here,
again.
I can do it, Bernie.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Christine.
I move to approve the 2026 Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission licensing renewal as presented and acknowledge there is no active alcohol license on file in the town of Carlisle.
Second.
Further discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Modell, I.
Nell, I.
Stevens, I.
Triola, aye. The motion passes. Congratulations. We are a dry town. Okay. Moving on. Personnel policy discussion. So is Aubrey out there? Yes, she is.
Hi, everybody. So
Hi, Aubrey.
unfortunately, my camera is not working. The joys of remote tonight.
Yep, that's fine.
But yeah, so Ryan, if I am able to share my screen. Oh, I'm going to send a request actually.
You're good.
All right. So, okay. Everybody can see that.
And this is just what's in the packet, Aubrey?
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna pull that up.
All right. So if everybody can see the packet, right?
Yep,
Yes.
you're good.
Okay. All right. So thank you again. Most of these are just minor revisions to what I presented at the last meeting. So the first is revising the last section of the terms of holiday pay. There was concern that it wasn't clear if you're on FMLA status, whether you'd be paid for the holiday or not. What our standard is if you're on paid status, meaning you've been using your accrued time to get paid during that time, then you would be paid for that holiday that would come before and or after your paid time. But if you've run out of your paid time and a holiday falls, you don't just get paid on a holiday. That you're not getting paid otherwise. Any questions with that? Sick leave. So I just got rid of the personnel board. So that won't be in there. And again, of course, when we do this full revision, all those references will be updated as well. Personal leave. I believe, yes, Barney there was a little typo that was actually in the 2021 version of 31.2A, employees department head. It should be head. Even though some folks might technically have more than one, when it comes to actual approvals, there is an approval process with just one person. One ask that I have been asked by staff is actually to make it 15-minute minimum for both personal leave and PTO. Apparently after the last presentation, it became clear that actually making any smaller does make it more difficult, but 15 minutes is fine. So are there any questions with that?
No, it's the accounting.
Yeah,
Doing the accounting can live with it a lot.
exactly. And so it's the same, and right here on the bottom, same thing with the PTO, just making it so it's just down to 15 minutes. And now they're consistent with each other as well. For resignations, I think there was another typo that Barney pointed out on 35.3 to return all town property, so I will update that as well. But we added the town reserves the right to recover the value of any town property not properly returned. So there are options to try to get that town property back.
Aubrey, is that parallel for involuntary?
Sorry?
Is the language parallel for involuntary departures?
Yes, yeah, for if you're leaving and you don't return your equipment.
I mean, you're right, because this is a voluntary. 35O is voluntary, right?
Yes, correct.
So there's some other section involuntary and it's parallel. That's all I'm trying to make sure.
No, that's a good point. I can make sure that if there's if they define termination, making sure that this is included as well to make sure that we
Okay.
have our property protected.
Okay.
Absolutely. Let's see. So 33 updated to DPW director, and then also number 2 just as determined by the DPW director, and then also the allowance will be determined by the town administrator, so the select board doesn't have to formally confirm that amount for the allowance. Then
Are you, sorry, I'm trying to follow where you are exactly.
yeah, sorry.
That's okay. I'm looking at my copy because I made a few notes. Have you gotten to safety and uniforms yet?
Yeah, that's what that was what that was in
What you
reference
just
to.
did. Well, just a question for you. I don't know if it really matters that much, but if you go down to under the DPW uniforms and then go down to the policy, and then it says appearance standards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's appearance, how do you, so the first full sentence says employees are expected to report to work in a neat and professional manner. So I don't know how you define a professional manner. I don't know if there's,
Right now it's under the, the direction of the director, but if you feel like it needs to have more details of what that looks like, we can, I just, to be able to follow through with that,
Well,
how detailed you want
I
it to
just
be.
was thinking if if the director was not happy with somebody because of their professional manner, that's kind of a different thing than your appearance.
Yeah, that's a good point. So there's
Mhm.
two
So,
different issues here. I think
yeah.
you should
So
probably
you
keep
want-
number 1 to appearance.
and maybe it's
Manner
just,
goes somewhere else.
To report to work in a neat and appropriate
Yeah,
appearance.
right.
Or something.
Report to work neatly and appropriately attired or whatever. The DPW director may provide feedback to employees whose appearance is deemed unsuitable or unsafe, and such feedback, it is expected or something like that, that the employee will amend his or her attire to comport with the director's recommendations. I think you should close out that second sentence with some action.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right. So 38.3, just taking out the finance department, just making so folks will come to me with any questions with anything. So if they're not trying to reach out to multiple folks, I can be that first point of contact regarding any of these policies.
Aubrey, are we going to have a future discussion on attire slash?
Yes, that is actually one of the recommended policies that will be coming.
And will that
later
apply
on.
to DPW? So I guess will
Mhm.
this be replaced slash augmented with a future policy? The whole
We could refer to, the like a centralized policy for all appearance, right? And so that it's not just directed at DPW, and then make that section just focused on safety and allowance.
I guess to David and Barney's point, we should just put a pin in this one so that if we do approve that policy, there's likely a clause or language that we'll want to refer to
Okay.
under this one.
Right. There can be overlap a little bit for sure. Sure. All right. So I do have my first new policy update request. So this is going into the staff request section of these. There's many more to come. This is the first one.
Did
So,
this change, Aubrey?
sorry?
Did this change? I know Gretchen had sent out some updates, but I didn't focus
This
on
is,
which had
she said
changed.
this is new, Travis.
No, I know that, but it was in the packet, but I know
No,
perhaps.
I haven't updated this. I haven't updated
Okay,
my documents.
okay. Thanks.
So this is a new policy update request for paid parental leave for non-union employees. As you know, the teachers already do have paid parental leave, but nobody else in town does. And so this would make it so you'd have up to 40 days of paid parental leave, or a non-birthing secondary caregiver up to 15 days of paid parental leave. So there's a lot of those kind of details. This is because for whatever reason, the state did not count municipal employees in their PFML. So most of the entire state has paid parental leave now, except for municipal employees and a few others, which is very difficult for a lot of folks, and it's not going to be helpful when we were trying to recruit, to not have that option. And right now, you do have your job protected up to 8 weeks, even if you haven't been there for at least a year, but it's not paid. So you still have to use your accrued time.
Okay, so two case questions for you, Bobby.
Sure.
Case one is I'm a male. I'm a Carlisle employee. My wife is not employed. We have a new child, and I claim that I am the birthing primary caregiver. Is there any audit on that, or I just claim it and I get 40 days off?
I could look into what that would look like to audit that.
Okay. And case question number two is I'm an employee and my wife is employed somewhere else, either municipal or private. And we both claim we're private, primary caregivers, because we both have, say, parallel policies. Is there any audit on that?
Sorry, if they work somewhere else?
They work somewhere else and they, have a.
So generally I wouldn't, it wouldn't matter if they worked elsewhere and had that. It's usually if it's both of them working the same, if they both work for the town, that's what
Well,
really
if they both
matters.
work for the town, it's easy, but I'm just asking the general question: is primary mean one, or is it irrelevant? I mean, you're distinguishing between, say, non-birthing, like adoptions or
No, that's a
whatever.
good question. I think
I mean, here's the corollary.
so if
Yeah.
I was taking it more like for childbirth recovery, but you're right. If they were both claiming to be primary and they work in another,
They work or
with
they
that
don't
due
work. I mean, there's
diligence.
no really audit function on the other spouse. The spouse that works for Carlisle says, I'm the primary, right? What are you going to say? You can't really say they're not. So I just don't know if there's any
So
remedy for that. But
you would recommend putting some processes in place if we did do this to make sure
David
that
has
those are in this policy.
He's
I
got a
don't know.
great question. There's hard to police that, right? Because how are you going to know about someone who's outside of the employment of the town? And, you have to take the employee's word for it, essentially.
So with other HR processes, there are ways to ask for another, like a spouse's employer to provide documentation for different scenarios. So there are ways to require qualifying events.
I mean, I would just say 40 days of paid leave is a lot. So it should be a relatively high bar to prove.
And
in the absence of any words, then what's to prevent them from saying, sure, yes, I'm the primary.
I was wondering too, in the Paid Family Leave Act, it's for both parents and it's equal time. Is there any problem with the legality of deciding to have two different times for primary versus secondary, or is that not an issue because we set the policy?
That's a good question too.
And
Not that I know of. I think this was probably kind of trying to compromise on this, but I would, if it was up to really me, I wouldn't even have that secondary. I would just allow them to have that as a parent. It shouldn't discriminate depending on which parent.
what do you mean? Say a little more on that, Aubrey.
Yeah.
If it was up to you, you would just have a 40 days paid parental leave for anyone, whether they're the primary or secondary.
Correct. Right. Because, if it's basically saying, well, one person will just have their salary, the other one, for a two-income household, it's still going to impact them negatively to have one person not be paid.
How did you come up with the 40 days too? I mean, why isn't
So
it?
some of this was based on Ryan McLean's previous request, and some other situation. Well, no, his was shorter, but I think it was based on more on the PFML itself. So it can be shorter.
Did you look around at any other municipal governments that?
Yeah, so geographically, there's not any in the immediate surrounding that have confirmed this, but I can do some more investigation. This is more preliminary. This isn't for you to vote and approve. I would highly
Yeah.
doubt you would do that. So this is more of introductory, and so these questions will help guide where this could go.
Yeah.
So, but is your overall theory or strategy, Aubrey, a retention? I mean, there's three things, right? There's sort of the statutory minimum, if there is such a thing. There's retention, and then there's maybe the broader question of sort of employee equity, like what's fair, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
Some of this is also based on the teacher contract as well. So that's part of it too. It's trying to be
teachers are overwhelmingly female, and they're presumably, and I don't want to get too sexist here, but they're presumably the primary caregivers in most of these cases. So I can understand that. And there's probably a lot of union there's probably a lot of precedent for the 40 days with teachers. Mm-hmm. But I guess to whoever made the point, I think we should look pretty hard at comparable towns and non-teacher employees who are typically, in many cases, are male, and what is the standard? Like, we should just look at that.
Mm-hmm. I do know the cities, Cambridge, Boston, Somerville, do have paid parental leave.
Mm-hmm.
And is it 40?
I know it's not completely comparable to us, but for folks who live in between Carlisle and those cities, that can be a good incentive.
Is it 40 though in those cases?
I can look. I think they're at least 12 weeks or at least 8 weeks from what I could tell. But I'm going to dig further into it.
Yeah, I mean,
but this is a really hot topic for a lot of folks because towns weren't part of the adoption of PFML, and it's becoming more and more of a conversation. And what more towns are doing are, in general, just the general knowledge is that they are adopting their own version of PFML because it's a lot easier to manage it internally. But when it comes to retention and also being attractive versus private industry, like this is huge.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's okay. I'm okay with setting it with the understanding that it's a retention, it's a recruitment and retention tool. I just want us to be kind of cognizant of what our strategy is. Mm-hmm. The other thing I would say is that, you spoke about the dual standard of non-birthing parent, say, versus birthing parent. I mean, there's a medically valid underpinning to a recovering mom who gave birth.
And that's where this is stemming from.
Right. And then there's a secondary thing, which came out through adoptions and maybe dads, basically, which is like, okay, my wife is laid up, but I still have a lot to do with this infant and I need some time. And that's okay too, but it might not be 40, So, I mean, there may be some middle ground between those two pieces that you have there. Maybe it's 30, for non-birthing parents. Just don't even bother with trying to get into the quagmire of whether you're a primary caregiver. Like, if you're a birthing parent, you get 40. And if you're non-birthing, you get, I don't know, 25, 40, 30, whatever it is. And just try not to make it so discretionary, because we're going to get into a real difficult situation to assess what primary means.
I just want to make sure it's legally works though.
Well, of course, it has to be. It has to be legal.
Okay.
But I mean, what I'm saying, Travis, is there's a medical underpinning
agree,
to the
David,
birth.
I agree, and I think we should continue this. I think it's good, and I'm not opposed to it. I think you're right, though. It's just about getting the language correct and something too. One other thing, Aubrey, maybe I missed it in there, but Is there language about if you can take the time concurrently? You know, after the 40 days. So if you had one and then, you know, the other parent wanted to take, you know, because one of your things said at birth and then the other, it was unclear, I think, at least when I read it, and I'm struggling.
So it might not be clear in this version. FMLA itself does not have to be concurrent, right? FMLA, you
Right.
have up to 1 year to use up to 12 weeks. I would like to make it clear. I mean, my suggestion would be to kind of mirror that, where you use it when you need to, right? Because I think that's what a lot of employees try to do already, right? One of their spouse goes back to work, so now they're out for a little bit longer, so they can try to extend staying home with the child.
That's fine. I just think you need to clarify.
Sure.
So Aubrey,
Oh.
when I was a library trustee, we endorsed this exactly, and the premise was a child who's now probably coming up on middle school. So it's good to see it finally come around. But now I am on the different side of the equation, and I want to know, are there any financial analyses that have been done for the revised leave policy? What are the financial implications to the town for this?
I could dig into that. I think there's a lot of variables with that, right? Because it depends on who it is, right? So there's a wide range of pay and what that looks like, and if they need an interim or if their position can be covered during that time. So there's a lot there. Yeah, paid wise, the paid part is the difference, right? Coverage won't change. We already had that. That won't change.
Would it be possible to ask FinCom to do this analysis for you? Does that make sense, everyone?
So Christine, which analysis are you looking for in this?
Financial implications of a leave policy to the town.
So are you just looking for 8 weeks paid for any employee? Like which other?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How do you model this out? I have no idea.
I mean, you could just look at the chart from 1-1 to 15 grade and step, and look at what 8 weeks looks from the entire range.
Well, we could look back to who's taken a leave and quantify
Yeah,
what that would have cost.
right. I
So
mean, I would start with the school. The school is going to have plenty of data of who took leave. That's a conservative estimate because it's, again, overwhelmingly women and probably a lot of them of childbearing age. But so that'll give you a guidepost, at least the maximum case. And in those cases, they have to hire a replacement. There's no question, right? That person's out, they hire a replacement. So that would be one fence post. I guess separately, I don't know. Look at past history of.
Well, I guess I would just say leave the methodology to FinCom. They'll figure out an intelligent way to go about it. But I think they would do a good job of drawing up a arm's length, analysis of what this is really going to look like to the town.
So I don't know that it's as much of a financial consideration as is a service delivery situation. So this only applies to a very small number of people in town. Most people have paid family leave in the Commonwealth. Most people in Carlisle have paid family leave. You're only talking about a very small subset of employees who don't have access to this benefit. So essentially, as an employer, we're saying that this small group, which I would argue is primarily also women, does not get paid leave, whereas the rest of the town and the rest of the Commonwealth does.
So what's the size of the pool we're talking about here then, Ryan?
So you're talking about full-time employees in town hall and the library and the police department.
So a few dozen.
So just to also give context, town hall was built in the 90s. I am the first to have been pregnant, come back, and been on parental leave.
Yeah.
And they had to come back and have, that wellness room designed because there was nothing before, right? So I am the first since the 90s. So if that gives some context of how frequently this is.
So the issue for service delivery, in my opinion, in terms of staffing, is when you have a department that's one or two people, if someone's out for 40 days, then you're not going to be able to replace them in a town hall budget, or you're going to have some additional coverage from other employees. So there would be a service dip.
Right. So
Or
maybe the impact is negligible. I don't know, but I'd like to see an analysis, some sort of like, no kidding. This is what modeled out, high, medium, and low, whatever, however they want to construct it.
So would you be talking about like their age? I mean, like what kind of modeling are you looking at? Because all very direct without putting
Yeah,
age as a factor.
of the pool of relevant employees, what are the ages? I have no idea what else they might take into consideration.
So Ryan, to your point, how do towns deal with this? Because you can't increase your budget, so someone goes out. Do you do a reserve fund transfer if you have to backfill it? Like, or is there a separate leave fund that we would create?
most towns our size would just provide less service. So there would be less service delivery during that time. Because you can't hire employees for 40 days, say in your, I don't want to be discriminatory, so I don't want to pick a department, but you're not going to hire a temporary employee for that time. So you would figure out a way to provide that service. Library is a great example. You might have less hours or increase part-time hours.
Yeah. In the time that I was a trustee, we had at least 2 women go out on leave, and it was just a matter of everyone else like pitching in, doing a little extra. We didn't have we just had interim, right? When Martha was out, Jennifer took over. Everyone just kind of stepped up. Okay. But I don't think I mean, it might be that the impact is negligible. I don't know, but I'd like to see like the facts of the matter.
It
Okay.
really comes down to the assumptions in that, and the
Mhm.
assumptions could be so wide. I mean, your one assumption is Aubrey's model of herself as the only employee since 1990 or whatever that has done that. So that might be the low case. If you wanted to say a high case, I don't know, maybe you take every employee, but I mean, you have new employees coming in that could be, of age to want to take that leave. I mean, and you could obviously adopt or, I don't know. I don't know what assumption.
I don't
would you
think, yeah, I don't think modeling is modeling going to change that's why I respectfully disagree with the approach. I think if we strategically are saying that it's an important thing for employee equity, small e, and or it's important for recruitment and retention tool to be competitive,
It is,
then
yeah. And I'm a huge supporter, David. I mean, we wrote up the original language to this when we were
yeah,
the body of trustees, but
yeah.
I do think we should plan for it intelligently because the cost, I suspect, is not negligible.
I don't know. I mean, what happens when I'm sure we've had medical leaves, right? Where people get sick and they have to go out
Yeah.
for a while.
Right.
And what do we do then? What do we do
Well,
when somebody needs cancer
so
treatment and they're out for 6 months?
they can use their sick time. Unfortunately,
No, but they're not there. I mean, to the service model, it doesn't matter how they.
Mhm. Right, and that's the thing. This will actually, we already offer 8 weeks unpaid protected if they're not covered
Yeah.
by FMLA. If they're covered by FMLA, that's 12 weeks unpaid. So the service levels, this doesn't impact that necessarily. It might encourage them to be able to use their full FMLA protected coverage.
Right. But what do you do?
Yeah,
What do you do
cost
from a
wise,
service?
I don't want to. I have to say I'm a little concerned about doing the age thing too, just because it can be
Yeah.
anybody from the age 15 and above, right? So
No,
like,
but I mean, maybe I'm not asking right. When people go out, regardless of how they're paid, let's separate the economics. What do you do when somebody says, I need to get treatment, I'm out for 8 weeks, or they say,
Right.
I am exercising my FMLA and I'm out for
Mhm.
12 weeks? You're not
Yep.
paying them, but what do you do? Like, how do you backfill those people right now?
And so that's definitely depends, right? Depends on the situation, what their position is. Usually it's just covered by the rest of the department
Okay.
or other departments that can help with that. If it's a long-term situation, right, then we might have to do an interim while they are out for a
Right. But
long
long term is many months. It's longer than the 40 days we're talking about. So
Right.
It
If it's
seems to
just
me
up
that,
to
yeah, so
12
I
weeks.
honestly,
Yeah.
I don't think mathing out respectfully, Christine, I don't think sending FinCom out on some exercise with widely varying assumptions is relevant. Like,
Okay.
if we think it's the right thing to do, we should do it, but we should do it in two ways. One is we should be consistent with sort of our comparables because we're, competitive in a competitive employment situation. And we should tighten up the rules because it seems kind of loosey goosey about deciding who is eligible and who's not. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. I took a quick look. I mean, I know Concord, seems like the surrounding towns, it doesn't seem like many towns offer this.
Mm-hmm.
So just understanding that doesn't necessarily direct our decision, but I would like to understand, where, like, as David mentioned, in our comparable towns or who are competing against, what are they offering? If they're offering anything, what are they offering in terms of just kind of a high level competitive assessment in terms of
Mm-hmm.
A, do they offer? B, what are the general terms we're seeing in other locations, in other towns?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Um, okay, so I think with this one, there's more discussion to be had, and I think Aubrey, I think your goal was to socialize this initial draft.
Correct.
Um, and I think if you have any additional comments or questions, we should probably just direct them directly to Aubrey.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know we have more personnel policy discussions in the queue. So I assume
Yes.
you'll be coming back. Next steps for this policy, Aubrey, do you want to consider some of the feedback and questions and then revisit this at the next meeting?
Absolutely. And would you like another policy presentation at that point as well? Just continue
Well, what you
bringing
had some
some
other,
forward.
I know you had some other policies
Mm-hmm.
that we need to review. So
Yes.
I think it's always good to at least tee up, even if we're not making a decision. A lot of these that we're into now, we're going to need some discussion and probably
Yeah.
we'll have questions. So I think the more you can tee them up for discussion, you can get our initial reaction and questions, and then there'll be some additional work after that. So I think it would be good
Absolutely.
to whatever you think is a reasonable amount to discuss at the next meeting, we should do
Mhm.
that.
Great. Thank you so
These
much.
these
Thank you
these
all.
will these will take some time, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks, Aubrey.
All right.
It's
Thank you,
helpful.
everybody.
Wait, Aubrey, hang
Yep.
on one sec. Do you need us to approve
Oh yeah, the other ones.
formally the earlier ones that you laid out that were based on the conversation we had,
So the last motion was to approve it with the, you know, assumption that they were going to be revised, but it's up to you all if you want to approve specific ones. Again, now that they have been revised, because I know that there's at least one that you wanted a little.
yeah, the only one that I think was the DPW one about neat and professional manner and appearance. Am I right?
Yes.
The other ones, I think everybody felt fine with. So I'm just wondering, we have not formally voted to approve the others, or have we?
There was no motion in the packet, and I think to Aubrey's comment, I think we approved the policies with the edits discussed, and this is reviewing the edits. Is that correct,
Okay.
Aubrey?
Mhm.
But
Correct.
we can just do a quick motion if we want to approve the revisions as presented and discussed.
Yeah, I would say all but
The parental,
what it's under the
new policy update request.
it's the only thing to leave off and come back to, I think, is the piece about the DPW safety and uniforms section. And then we could vote through all the others.
I'd say let's see the revised language first, Barney, and then just do it all in one fell swoop.
Well, the language, it has been revised for all the others. We're looking at the revisions.
Oh, yeah, I saw the marks, yeah.
But it's just.
Okay, so let's approve all but the DPW, and we're not taking up the new request yet, right?
Yeah, right.
All right. I'm good
Does
with
that
that.
work for you, Aubrey?
Yep, that's perfect.
So the motion would be to accept to approve as revised in the packet. I'm just going back to the numbers we're talking about. It's, what is it? It is 21-3, the terms of holiday pay, 23.0 sick leave, 31.0 personal leave, and 35.0 resignations, and 38.0 financial policies and reimbursements.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or deliberations?
Yeah, one comment just to add is Aubrey has agreed that she will make involuntary terminations parallel to the resignation section.
Yes, thank you.
And if they're not, then you can bring that policy for approval at a future meeting.
Perfect.
Okay. Let's do a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Model I.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, I.
Aye. Thank you, Aubrey.
All right, thank you all.
We're getting into the fun stuff now. All right. Speaking of fun stuff, let's talk about committee creation and appointment policy. Now, on the agenda, we only have 15 minutes for this. I suspect we may need some additional time on this one and or additional thought and edits, just given, I think, some of the changes in language. And this is one where Gretchen did have some notes. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to what's being presented here. Barney, I know you met with Gretchen and,
Yeah.
but let's see.
But just as a little background,
Yep.
we'd all forgotten, those of us that were involved with this a couple of years ago had forgotten that we actually had a policy, but that's what we were revising. That's what we realized we needed to revise. And so this is, I think what Gretchen tried to do was show the changes to our existing policy. And so she's noted those in yellow, I think, as you go through this.
Yeah, and she calls out obviously really needing discussion in her email, if people want to refer to that. A number of comments on the residency section that I think we need to discuss. And also some of the creation of new committees section.
Yeah, and that whole discussion about statutory and
there's a
regulatory authority.
There's a fair amount of meat on this bone.
Yeah.
When you really get into it. To my well, I don't know where to begin at the So a general comment I had for whomever is I was confused at the outset on the term of board because it's defined in the beginning as board and committee are interchangeable, but then it seems like the select board is referred to as the select board, the board, the SB. So one piece of feedback is we should just call it the select board whenever it appears, because it does get confusing when it's saying the board. It's also referring to Board of Health, Board of Assessors, what's being commented there. But when we get into residency, I don't know how others feel and if we want to dive right into this, but I mean, I support a residency policy, but I do want us to leave the opportunity, as long as it's allowable under law, to appoint non-resident members if there's support from the committee and support from the select board. So it feels like the language that is included here is pretty specific about non-residents shall not be eligible for appointments on a wide range of committees that we really haven't talked about. And to me, that seems a little too much. I liked in the second section that there is an allowance for non-resident appointments when there's, I think it said unanimous support of the committee or whatever. But my general comment is I do support a residency policy and we should err toward that. But I do want to leave the opportunity in some cases for non-residents to be appointed.
Yeah, and I think the one question for that, Scott, is are they may they be appointed and also be able to vote? Because I think from some folks I've talked to here in town, now not a lot, but a few folks are concerned about some situations that we have currently where a person is voting around a policy that affects people in town, but they don't live here. So they're making a decision in a sense about, what happens in the town that is they're not going to be governed by that same decision. If you know what I mean? So I think that's one question for us. Is
Well,
it
they're voting on in that case, you mean something like a recommendation or a position? I mean, ultimately, town meeting is,
No, I meant, you have
oh, like the land
a,
use.
a committee, yeah, a committee, and there's someone, let's say, for example, moves out of town, but they've been, a really active, helpful member on the committee, and you'd like them to continue. Um, so that's that exception. But do you have them continue, even though they don't live in a town, being able to vote on policies that affect the residents of the town?
And kind of building on that, I guess I have I fall on maybe a stronger side of that argument where I don't know. I'm trying to think of examples where, you can always have anyone to a public meeting and these people can participate, but it's a different level of to be a resident where you're making decisions on behalf of other residents. And I just think
That
I mean,
dovetails into my question. So in town meeting, to Travis's point, we, the public body, are asked to vote on things which may have direct financial or other impact. And so that's important. But in committee, here's my question. Are there committees that do committees make any decisions that don't have to drive up to elected boards, select board, conscom, whatever? I mean, I'm trying to
yes,
think of an example.
yes. Every committee makes policy decisions that have some impact, and arguably everybody has some financial or lifestyle impact on the community. I was thinking of every land use board that decides which trail is where or whatever.
No, but
Somebody is,
but the land use boards tee up to some elected board, right? Conscom, is that elected or
yeah,
appointed?
but at the smallest level, you're having the policies determined by those people who may not be elected. Now, granted, if you have one person, you're right. It's like, well, that's never going to matter, and but it does, and it's the level of influence you want to have from outside, of
Yeah.
residents.
Okay. All right. No, fair enough. Okay. So what we're balancing is that point of view versus having the flexibility to appoint people who we think are subject matter experts or otherwise have value add that no longer are not residents, right?
Right. And my argument would be a subject matter expert could still present. And there's nothing preventing a
Right.
person from participating in a public
So
meeting.
why don't maybe the policy should make those people ex officio, non-voting, just leave it at that.
Yeah, what ex officio typically means you've been on the body and you have retired or resigned or something.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know the legal
You'd have
definition,
to
but
look that up. Yeah.
let's not get
Yeah.
into those weeds. Just non-voting. Give the
Yeah.
committees the authority or the flexibility to appoint various non-voting members who do not
Yeah.
need to meet residency requirements.
Yeah.
That would apply. So in the draft here, there is a carve out for committees without statutory regulatory authority for occasional exceptions. The comments now would say, just don't make a distinction. It's just non-residents may not serve on, be a voting member on any board or committee, without exception, essentially.
I would consider it like the town meeting, where if you're not a resident, you sit in a separate area. They do allow you to speak, but you can't vote.
Yeah, and one of the other questions we want to address is, what happens in a situation where someone is on a committee, they live in town and then they move. Do they immediately have to resign as a voting member, or do we, have a policy that they can complete their term, or, what happens in that instance?
Barney, for the select board, if you are going to leave town, you, I believe, have to resign.
You're done.
Yeah, but if I'm an elected member, would that be true of somebody who's not an elected member of a body?
I would
Presently,
argue you
believe
shouldn't
me.
make the distinction. I think that, if you're no longer a resident of town, you could be, if we're going to agree to an ex officio status, you could be that, a non-voting, you could continue to, involve yourself to the extent you want. But I just worry that this is my pontificating, but I don't want to have people move to Florida and make decisions on Zoom
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Carlisle residents.
Right.
I agree.
Right.
I
Yeah.
agree. So I think the language should just be amended in 8. It says non-residency shall not be eligible to appointment of any committee, blah, blah, blah. But we should nuance that language to say they're not eligible as voting, but they're
Yeah,
at the discretion of the committee, they can be non-voting. I mean, some language.
yeah, yeah.
Let's not get into
Or
the weeds of
subcommittees.
whether they moved out of town, they moved into town, they used to be in town, they never were in town. I mean, that's too much stuff to worry
No,
about.
I think you
Yeah.
got to keep it simple. I did have a question, and I don't know who's drafting, but under the residency and the B, it talks about members should have a current year annual street listing census form on record. And I wondered, that seems pretty cumbersome for every committee to have that. I figured you just refer to the town clerk and ask if the person is a resident.
So
So
that's
this
what I
one's
think
me.
that's what they
Okay.
mean by that.
Yeah.
But this is to explain what qualifies you as a resident. So it's not that you vote in town, that you're a registered voter. It's actually that, again, this is according to Ashley's, looking into it, that you have to have completed the town census. And so it's something you have to do every year.
That's close. So
I got it.
it's one or the other. So you have to be a registered voter or have a census form filled out to be considered. That's the easiest way for us to tell if you are a resident, because you can't do those things somewhere else.
So
you
how does
can-
what's the cross check, Ryan? If I have my house here and my summer house on the Cape, who's checking that which one I'm the resident of?
So that's what this is getting to, is the only clear way that we can say if you're a resident is if you vote here or you fill out your census here, because you cannot do that somewhere else.
Okay, so
You can
there's
pay
some check
taxes on the Cape, you can live in Florida, but you can't vote down there and maintain Carlisle as your primary residency.
Okay, all right.
So then
So-
we have to, this first paragraph then shouldn't make it sound like it's just having done this town census. It's either or, you're saying. And there's also this thing, affidavit of residency. As my understanding is there's actually some sort of a form that you can fill out.
I think that's if you missed this. Gretchen's going to have to provide the correct language here, because I do think the affidavit, if you don't complete your census, I don't know. There's a distinction there.
I think there's some, right. I mean, let's not be too litigious. I will tell you the anecdote of when I first moved to my little town in Connecticut, which is many years ago. I went in to register to vote, and I filled out the form with my address, and the lady, the clerk, I guess, made me take an oath that I was a resident of the town. It was Granby, Connecticut. And I asked her at that point, like, okay, great, but you didn't ask for a driver's license or any other proof. And what's to prevent me from going to every other town in the, in the valley and registering to vote? And she looked at me like I dropped off of Mars and said, you took an oath? I mean, we're New England, right? I mean, people are not really going to game this. I think if we write it properly, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I do think I'm sorry, I'm getting the weeds, but in that sentence, members should have a current year annual street listing. I think we need to be definitive on these policies rather than should have, which it leaves it open to interpretation of, is that should, like maybe, and they have it, and what's the penalty? I think
They
you need
will.
to say they must, or whatever it is needs to be
Yeah.
so clear. There's no
Yeah.
ambiguity.
Yes, they
That
shall.
was kind of my point
Yeah.
Well,
earlier.
and we must. One of the points of feedback in the last go around was our application form now should have something about like confirming or indicating or something around
Yeah.
residency. Because there's right now, as far as I understand, nothing in the application that causes people to even think about this, or think about, oh, I should go do an affidavit, or I didn't, I just moved to town.
Right, but
Yeah.
if we flag it, the town clerk flags it, and then we usually circle back to them, right?
Usually, but sometimes we don't, and then we get into awkward.
Well, we should put, we should
There should
put.
be something on the form that,
Yeah.
That's a very good point, Scott.
So just to clarify this point, because it's important, if you want staff to be able to flag definitively whether someone's a resident or not, then the more specific you are with what makes you a resident, the better.
yeah,
Yeah.
So we're recommending these two things they're not infallible, but they're pretty strong. If you don't have one or the other, then it's likely that there's something there that someone would be able to question your residency.
right.
So you can always have an appeal. Like, I didn't want to fill out the census because of my personal beliefs and I don't want to vote. But it should be like, you can't, until you solve that problem, you have to have one of these two things.
Right.
Because,
I support that.
yeah, I'm telling you, every residency issue we have is because
Okay.
someone
So that
doesn't agree.
paragraph is fine as written then, right?
Which one?
The first one?
The
No.
first one
No.
shall be determined by X, Y, or Z, right?
No. Well, it needs to be said more precisely, and it needs to be a must, right? That was
Well,
drafted.
shall in legal speak, shall is will, right?
I know, but for the for the average Joe, it should say members must have a current.
Okay.
I think we need to, I'll talk to Gretchen tomorrow, but this paragraph should remove the distinction between statutory and regulatory and be more definitive about all committees. And we should just be very clear about the specific requirements or
Right.
options to confirm residency as supported by our town clerk and Gretchen who are
Right.
doing the confirmation.
Yeah.
Right.
And, Gretchen raised, or she and Ashley raised the basic question about why does statutory authority or regulatory authority matter, if we were just to say that, you have to be a resident to park.
Yeah, I wouldn't, I agree with you. I would get rid of all this land stewardship, historical, just get rid of all that. Just say, I mean, you have to meet, paragraph 1 should be very clear. You got to meet these requirements. And if you do, fine. And if you don't, then in paragraph 3, I guess, you could be appointed as a non-voting. There's got to be some wordsmithing.
Yeah.
You got to be you can be non-voting, and that's it. Leave it at that. Like, the committee can decide to be non-voting, but they cannot, if the person doesn't meet paragraph 1, they cannot be voting, period.
Yeah.
How are we circling back on this?
We'll review
Well, it gets
revision.
revised and brought back. Yeah.
By whom?
Who's drafting?
Well,
Who drafted?
Gretchen probably, and I can work with her, having been part of the conversation, but I mean, she can also listen to the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Barney or I can work with Aubrey to get this
Yeah.
revised to reflect the discussion tonight. And there's just a comment I'll read from the public, just also making sure that, and I think this would take care of that, non-voting members can't be chair or an officer of a committee. I would assume that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
But
you
we can
should clarify that, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
The other thing just to point out in here further down near the end is, because this question had come up and this puts it now into this policy that residents living at the same address who are interested in being appointed to a committee shall not serve on the same committee.
and then there is a workaround on that one.
Right.
I
It
could
could go to-
imagine scenarios where I don't know.
We had that come before us, Scott, before you joined
Right.
the board, that someone came and said, we will only be on this committee if both the spouses could serve on the committee.
Right.
And at the time, I think the select board was reluctant to do that.
Does this rule out though, like Benfield? Like if you have two you know what I mean? It's like residents at the same address. Like I understand, like I guess spouses. This is residents, so you.
Or maybe you clarify it to say residents living in the same household. I don't know,
Resident-
right? Rather than same address.
Yeah.
Or something. This is such a rare exception. I
But
think
this is two different things, right? One is simply, I want to join and my wife also wants to join. And then the committee has to take that up. The other one is, I will only join if my wife joins.
That's right,
They're
Dave.
two different situations.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do we care? That's the first question. Do we care if a husband and wife, say, for example, both are on a committee? Do we care about that?
I don't.
I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I think
Here's
it's okay.
the thing that, you hate to think about the worst case scenario, but let's say you have a pretty small committee, there are 5 of you and 2 of the 5 are living in the same household and, have the same opinions or position on things.
Right.
They,
Well,
they
We
have
would
pretty
appoint them.
So you're
undue
saying-
influence, they have more influence, I guess, right?
So you don't want
We
that.
wouldn't appoint them if we were concerned about that.
Right.
You could defer to that. But David's point about the distinction, if they come to you and say, we will
Right.
only do this, I don't like to be strong-armed on.
Right.
Well, then you don't
We would
appoint
just
them.
say no. We would say no. But
But
let's
we
say
want to
Barney.
we want to give the staff, though, that are getting these questions, we want to give them a way to say no, because this is the policy that the select board has approved.
I
What
think
about? I mean, let's say Barney. Let's say you're not moving, and Michael decides he wants to run for my open seat. Is he not allowed to?
No, he can.
Well, of course he can.
Elected.
So why
But
would
it's
we?
elected, it's a little different than being
Well,
appointed.
it's not really. I mean, yes and no. I guess I want to push back a little on the husband and wife thing. It's unlikely anyway, but
I
do
think
we
we
really
should.
care? At the end of the
I
day,
think
do we
we
really
should-
care?
This is one of those things you could say spouse, resident. It's a slippery slope. I don't think we need it. We can decide on based on the appointments, the committee of their recommendations, as long as they're residents. Because
Yeah, I
you could be people can have all sorts of different relationships that are close and serve on a committee, and so we're singling out
Right.
physical residence. It could be
Yeah.
any number of things.
I think that's
right. You could be
Scott.
good friends, right?
I
I agree. I
agree.
think we should strike it.
Well,
Okay.
all right.
We're
And then
running
the other
over
is just the note that we're saying it's typically we say you need to be 18 years of age or older to be appointed to a committee, but there's the exception. This is in the paragraph just above what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
You
What
know,
was the rationale for that?
Frontal lobe development, Travis.
Well, no, they're
Well, it was-
allowing. I was actually asking because I'm trying to understand why anyone, even though I really want civic participation and I would love that, and I think my children, because I think they're so special, even though I'm not saying that. No, could they serve? Yeah, you'd like all these kids to be on that, but I don't think if you're 18, under 18, I mean, you're not even legal to vote.
Right. Well,
And
that's
so
that
why
tees
would
back
you even
exactly right.
open this up
Right.
to
That tees back to the prior.
possibility?
If you can't vote, I mean, do we have a restriction like at town meeting? You can only vote if you're a taxpayer and B 18. What's the rule on voting?
You have to be a registered voter.
And what does
And you
that
have
mean?
to be 18.
So a homeowner like Mike's son cannot vote because he's a resident but not 18, right?
Yeah.
My daughter, who is 20 now, she can vote, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I mean that would be consistent. You shouldn't be a voting member if you can't vote, right?
I don't even think you should be on the committee.
All right. So just say
Well, on
remove
the
that
other
last
hand,
sentence.
Travis, let me just offer the other
Yes,
point of
please
view,
do.
which is here you have, let's say a high school kid who is really invested in, sustainability and protecting the environment. And they are willing to put a lot of work, a lot of time into figuring out, what are the native plants that should be promoted versus something else, why not allow that person to both learn what it's like to be involved in a town committee, give back to your town, but also that it's helpful to the committee to have another active volunteer.
Non-voting member.
Non-voting member, that's fine.
Right.
But if you're talking about a voting member, again, this is someone who is
Okay.
living in a
So maybe-
residence but not paying taxes to the
Okay.
town and making financial or somewhat implicit financial decisions on behalf of a committee that could affect me and my taxes or my livelihood in the town. And I
So
think
the
they
way
just don't
you-
have a vested
right.
interest in that.
Okay, got it. So you would just take this off and it would fall under the same thing as the other residency issues, which is any young person that wants to participate in a committee that's under 18 can just come to the committee
Yeah,
meetings. Yeah.
great.
So the first sentence stays intact. The second sentence can say,
Yeah.
we can clarify that they can attend or serve
And
as a
non-voting
non-voting
member, just like right.
And then the very last section under here, I guess
Oh,
there's,
can I make 2 points prior to that? I
yeah.
noticed there I was wondering, this is a question, is if we mention a suggested timing of resignation, that came up relative to elected positions, but maybe it doesn't need to be there. When Kate resigned and then you had to have a special, like, do you want to mention like this is a good time to resign or not?
Now would be a very good.
Right. Right.
Well, I think
No,
we
now
should.
that
I
I'm
don't
thinking
know
about
that
it,
you can offer guidance.
strike that. Okay.
Well,
strike
I think
that.
what I think we should say to some effect is, if once people, well, yeah, if they resign, they resign. And practically speaking, you're going to need at least 2 weeks to advertise the position and a select board meeting to appoint. So there is a timeline there of say 3 weeks where you
Yeah.
can't backfill that position, whether that matters or not.
Yeah.
But we're running short on time. The goal was not to get through all this, and there's more meat on this bone when we get into like the creation of a new committee. I think we should focus on that first one, and then we can tackle the rest of it at either our next meeting or the subsequent meeting.
Okay. Do we have to vote anything today?
No.
No.
All right. Let's move on. Okay.
Oh, and we'll give this feedback to Gretchen. I have some additional feedback.
I have feedback too. I'll give it to Barney or to Gretchen.
Why don't you give it to Gretchen and
Give it to Gretchen.
I'll work with
Okay.
her. Yeah.
Directly
And
to Gretchen,
Ashley.
please.
Yeah.
For OML. Okay. All right. TA report. More substantive stuff.
All right, I'm up. All right, here's my town administrator report for December 2nd, 2025. Was supposed to have my coffee hour today, but nature ruined that. So we're pushing it to next week, December 9th, 10 to 11 in the Parlin room at Town Hall. Going to focus on the budget, long-term financial planning, but residents are encouraged to stop by and discuss any priorities. I know there was a couple that said they were going to stop by today, so we'll see them next week. Also reminding residents in the board about our municipal newsletter, our email alerts, and podcasts, so people can stay up to date. It's pretty easy to follow along when town meeting is all encompassing, but following now will allow people to be ready for those big decisions that are coming in the spring. I don't have any appointments to notify you of. Aubrey did include some information in her HR report. We're seeking part-time drivers to support our transportation program. They're very difficult to hire, but it is a very important position and rewarding position for folks. If anybody knows anyone that is looking to drive a van and to make a difference for our seniors. Our Recreation Director, Holly Mansfield, our Assistant Town Clerk, Melissa Danish, our Assistant Director and Head of Technology, Jennifer Pike, and our Accountant, Kelly Byer, are going to participate in a multi-module skill development program offered by SpeechCom. This is in conjunction with some of David's employees, actually. And we're hoping to have some of this investment in our professional development and emotional awareness increase the capacity of our town. So just amplifying our continued emphasis on professional development and updating our staff skills. Some department updates for you. We received a $10,000 grant from the Greater Lowell Community Foundation to help with food insecurity. This is thanks to the work of the COHS staff and Jeff. I think that's great. It's obviously timely with the news that has been circulating federally for quite some time. It will provide access to emergency food assistance when necessary, and that's very important this time of year.
Ryan, was it on that point in the notes where it said we can't accept direct deposit? We have to take a live check?
Yes.
Why is that?
I don't know the answer. I do know that that's come up a few times and it is not allowed. But I will get you that answer. I'm going to write that
What do
down.
we need to do to change it? Because that seems a little out of step with the times.
Probably a home rule petition, but I will get that answer.
Meaning approval at town meeting.
Yeah, and then the legislature. I'm assuming there's probably well, it could be reasonable, it could not. It's a state law, so
Yeah.
I will get you that answer. For two votes for your consideration. One, circulated a letter to you about the Tabbitt Mills Dam removal in Billerica. There are letters in your packet from the Conservation Commission and the ESC seeking your support for this project. It is a regional project. We're recommending that you authorize, if you approve, sending a supportive letter, your chair to sign this letter in support of it and mirroring the attached letters that we've already received. So I'll pause there for questions and your consideration.
I circulated some articles about this, and the ecological benefits are pretty clear. But there are concerns, or the Billerica Historic Commission doesn't believe this project is in the town's best interest. The select board has expressed concerns about their water supply. So there is an opposing view to this project that I'm quite simply not familiar with in terms of all the ins and outs. So again, I don't really have much information on this project to feel comfortable for me saying here's a letter of support. I think
Yeah,
I
so
support
I was all set to support it, and then you sent all that stuff today, and I haven't had time to review it. So I guess what's the urgency?
They
Can we
need, it's
table
pretty,
it?
yeah. Did you see the note from Dan Cook? I think
The vote happened last night. Didn't the appeal happen last night?
I thought it was, yeah, it's.
The
I don't
Billerica
know if it was
Historic
last night or
Commission
coming up in the
denied.
next couple days.
They denied. There's an appeal to the Billerica Historic Commission's denial on a whatever, and that appeal there's you can submit comments in the comment period, which ends Friday.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, Christina, the public hearing did happen last night, but then after the hearing, you're saying, Scott, there's a vote?
no, I think they're just
No.
appealing Billerica's. They're trying to overturn the Historic Commission's denial of whatever.
Right.
It's
And there was
on
a
private property, so again, I'm not an expert on this thing, which is why I'm hesitant to kind of jump into it. But it's a dam on private property. I think their select board has, which seems to have its own dramas if you start reading about the Billerica Select Board, but um, they express concerns about the water supply. There's a study that says it's not a concern, but they haven't, they're kind of basically, it looks like staying out of it to some extent. But there is opposition to it. I mean, that's the point I want to make is Dan Cook and all the links we're given is definitely the one side of the argument, and it's certainly a strong argument. Um, I just haven't been exposed to the other side of the argument and all the information around that. And I'm also hesitant to kind of step into overturning another town's historic commission's decision for a dam on private property in a different town, even though it does have an impact um, on the Concord River. And I certainly support Conscom's statements. I don't know what our role in this is.
Well, it's just an additional level of support.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the impact to Carlisle? Is it our side of the Concord River?
Yeah, it's the ecological and environmental argument is it restores. I mean, I can't get into all the specifics, but it's better for the river.
So if our own Conscom thinks it's a good idea,
Right, and so does ESC.
then what do we care what Bill Ricka thinks? We think it's good for us, I guess, right?
Right.
I don't really know because I'm confused. I didn't have time to absorb
Well, again,
Scott's late breaking
nothing's
news
been
here.
presented to us. We haven't, I didn't even know about this really until I started Googling it more yesterday, just to try to get educated on what was going on.
Generally, when we have these types of things, we do seek a hearing on it or some type of, more information. I think of like the Hanscom issue, how it impacts us. And I think that that's a valid thing to just understand before we launch into it. But not to say I'm not, I mean, from what I've read so far, yeah, it seems like as Christina texted there, cleaner water.
Yeah.
There are lots of reasons to
Yeah.
support this, but you're getting involved. I feel like just reading that stuff that Scott sent, you could be getting involved in a dispute that's not even, we don't even know about private property or all this, and we're weighing in on something we haven't been following.
Scott, who asked us to get involved? I mean, at whose behest are we being asked to weigh in?
Well, I don't know if you remember Dan Cook, who he is on the SUWASCO. What's that acronym? It stands for the Sudbury Valley River Stewardship Committee or something like that. And he does a lot of work around sustainability generally. And so he wrote to me and said, here's what's going on. And I had a phone conversation with him. And I said, well, I know that what I would be saying if you came to the select board first is, well, what's the Conscom have to say about it? Or what does the sustainability committee have to say about it? So he went to each of them first. And actually, I think he did a presentation for both boards. And so each board separately wrote their letter of support. And then I think it was ESC, maybe it was also Conscom, encouraged the select board to also write a letter of support. So that's how it ended up coming to us.
Oh yeah, thank you, Eric.
I haven't had time to reach out to the Billerica select, like anybody, to say what
What are the issues here? Yeah.
what are the issues, or at least give the opportunity to hear what the opposing views are. And what it comes down to on the opposing side is historical significance, local and national, and their water supply. Again, and there have been other studies, as I understand this, that it's not an impact, but I don't know. I just don't know. And so, I mean, I'm happy to chime in. I just feel like we should know a little bit more. or at least have somebody give us an overview of it. I don't
Well,
want
we
to.
would presumably, if you feel that way, you need to schedule next meeting to invite both maybe somebody from the Billerica side who didn't like it and somebody who likes it and present.
But do we want to allocate 45 minutes of our next?
I don't know. That's the question. I mean,
Yeah, is this significant enough of an issue? That's what I was.
When we have the letters of support from our conscom and our,
yeah, I mean, our guys support it. I guess my feeling is, I don't know enough because I didn't do enough research, but if our guys support it, did they do the research that you did? I guess that's the question. And if they did, and they still feel it's worth doing, then shouldn't we support our guys?
Yeah. Okay, I just found the email from Dan Cook, and it says the final deadline to submit comments to the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments about the Talbot Mill Dam removal, appealing the Billerica Historic District's Commission denial, is December 5th. December 5th.
Okay, there you go. Well, okay, time to. I mean, if the whatever that committee or whatever that body is says you have to remove the dam, what does that mean to the homeowner? Like, what happens then?
I have no
We
idea.
don't know.
Then we have to just pass. I mean, then
They're
let's
trying to right now they're trying to appeal a decision by the Billerica Historic Commission. As far as I just don't know all the details of what's going on.
Yeah,
So
we
do
don't know
want to
enough.
say, we support the overturning the historic.
No, we can't. I mean, if we don't know enough, we don't know enough.
No, we would
I agree.
just write a letter, I mean, similar to what the, Conscom and ESC have written, just be a,
But we have to know enough, right? We don't know what we're forcing on some poor Billerica landowner.
I just don't know what the letter would be. Like this is coming up in the TA report at the end of a meeting.
Yeah.
We
didn't give it enough. I mean, I saw the lengthy stuff on it, but as to your point, we got sort of a one-sided view. So we didn't really do, bottom line is we didn't do our due diligence, right? We took verbatim some one side of the view, and only because you did some work, Scott, at the 11th hour, we got some other views. So,
and for the record, what I shared with the select board was the recent article, or the articles that were on the Lowell Sun on this topic. I wasn't trying to push any particular.
No, I know, but we didn't do. I mean, if we had taken it more seriously, we would have had that due diligence. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying.
No. I'm just
nobody took it up to say, "Gee, we got to do some work." Like Hanscom was a slow-moving thing, right? It was going on, and we invited various people to come, and they didn't come, and then we kind of did our own due diligence.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when we got all done, we said, "All right, we've done enough work to support that."
Right.
Okay, we haven't done that here, so I don't think we can take it. I think we just have to punt.
I mean,
it's not our fight, right?
The one thing we could do is we could just essentially point them to the committees that took the position and just reiterate their position in terms of, But I don't know. I
think if people aren't comfortable with the select board saying we support the the decision, the recommendation to remove the dam, then I think we just shouldn't do anything at all. Just let the Conscom and the ESC stand their comments. I will say
it's not a again, the Billerica Select Board is private property, so they don't really have a say in the matter. It's not like it's a town dam. It's private property.
Right, but this is around the appeal, right? So this is the Friday.
I don't have enough basis to reject Billerica's, the Historic Commission's arguments, even if I don't even know what they seem kind of thin, but again, I don't know.
Does the NMCOG have the authority to order one way or the other?
I don't know.
No, NIMCOG's like MAPC. They wouldn't have that authority.
So what is going to force this? What thing, regardless of who supports it or not, what action would require the dismantling of this dam, and at whose expense?
We don't know.
It's it's complicated. I get I get the arguments for removing it and all that, but it's for us to. I don't even know like what the letter would be.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
know
I think we got it. I mean, there's enough people who are going to weigh in on this. There's 3,148 dams that all need this. So, maybe
we have some
next
in our
time we
own
should be
town.
more prepared. Yeah.
We're putting emergency repair money into dams.
I mean, they say all these great things that would be for Bill Ricca, but Bill Ricca said no thanks. So what do we know, right?
Well, I don't know all the ins and outs. Again, that's part of my challenge here is it's like authorize me to write a letter, and I'm like I don't feel comfortable writing a letter based on the information I have.
Yeah, I agree. I think we just got to let it go and see what happens. I mean, there are enough people who are energized to try to force it and let them carry the ball.
And Christina, I see your hands up. I think what we're going to do, because I want to get through the TA report, and then we just have some final administrative things that we can circle back to this in the community comments at the end of the meeting. I just want to get through the other stuff, and then if you have a comment on this, we'll take it then. Okay.
Just one question, actually,
Yep.
if I may. The ESC has not submitted the letter to Bill Ricca. We only submitted it to you, the select board. So is it okay for us to submit the letter to Bill Ricca as a committee, or should we stay in our lane as strictly advisory to the select board?
I
It'd
think,
be fun. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you serve as an advisory committee to the select board. I think it would be up to us to finally figure out what the position is and then submit something to Bill Ricca.
Well, that's not quite. I mean, I think it's two different questions. The first question we took up is whether we, the select board, have enough information to write a letter of support or not. And I guess we concluded we don't. But earlier in the discussion, and to Christina's point, the two boards that have taken it up and believe it should be done, I personally have no reason to say they shouldn't write directly to whatever authority to express their support. I'd be okay with it. But it is up to the chair of the select board.
Well, the other option, very briefly, is I could essentially write a cover letter that says the Carlisle Select Board, has not taken a position on this particular item, but we wanted to convey the recommendations of both committees,
Yeah.
and include those,
That'd be okay with me too.
and send it kind of on their behalf, but also just indicate that, we didn't really we didn't take a position on it, given, I don't know, whatever. But
Yeah.
I could write a brief cover
Just
letter and
didn't
then
take a
attach those
position.
two letters.
Yeah.
Does
That's
that work,
fine.
Christine?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I just didn't want to step out of line by sending it.
No,
So
that's fine.
that works nicely.
If people are amenable to that, I'll just write a brief cover letter and make sure that those are sent to whomever. Maybe you can direct me who they should be sent to. I'm not
Sure.
quite clear on that.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Let's move along.
All right, continuing on to our Minuteman Memorandum of Understanding. Your COHS Director is requesting your endorsement of an MOU between Town of Carlisle and Minuteman. They provide free and valuable programming to our residents, especially our senior residents. We have a relationship with them in many different ways. They're requesting use of your town hall, so it does require your approval. If you're willing to make that.
Sure. So we want to make that motion? Is it in the packet, or?
Yes, it is. Let's see. We had it a minute ago. Yeah, okay, so I move that we accept the memorandum of understanding between Minuteman Senior Services and the Carlisle Council on Aging and Human Services for use of town buildings, and authorize the town administrator to sign on the town's behalf.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call. Any discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Arnold, aye.
Modell, aye.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Viola, aye. Great.
My report includes a Green Communities Annual Summit report from Sarah Wasserman, our Land Use and Sustainability Coordinator. She attended the summit on behalf of the town, and we like to provide information when our employees go and receive information regionally. So I included that in my report for you. She learned a lot, connected with sustainability folks, and it's definitely worthwhile for our staff to engage regionally. I'd like to thank Officer Corwin and the police department for securing a grant to improve health outcomes for our police officers. Heart Start's a proactive health program that assesses our officers for any anomalies or any issues that come from the stress of their job. It's been proven to on occasion identify issues that will help extend our officers' lives. And it's great to have this grant, and thanks for their service and what they do, make sure that they are safe.
Ryan, is that applicable to firefighters too, or just police?
This one is specific to police. We are looking at firefighters as well. This one is a stress-based syndrome, which obviously would apply to firefighters as well, but this one's police focused.
Okay.
An update on the natural gas contract I brought before you. Natural gas prices spiked last week shortly after you had authorized me to negotiate. Based off guidance from our consultant, we're going to float the rate through December and try to find more favorable pricing in January. If you remember, it was in the high $8 range. It's in the $10 range now. So we're hoping that will come down so we can secure a year-long contract. For budget updates, I'm meeting with the Finance Committee on Thursday. They're going over the recreation and facilities requests on the capital plan that would finalize their scrub of the 5 to 10 year capital plan so that they can focus on some recommendations in clearing capital for what was identified earlier as a coming difficult discussion about the operating budget. Departments received their guidance. They are submitting their budgets to me by December 5th, and we will have a draft for you at your next meeting. The first look at the town's FY27 budget. We did receive some good news. I'd like to present that when we can with the budget. We locked in another 2-year agreement with Maya and Cabot Risk with our general liability insurance for a 0% increase in FY27 and a 2.5% increase in 28. So that is good news. Some capital project updates. We awarded our contract to New England Builders and Contractors. They will be completing the elevator project. We're going to sign that contract this week or early next week. And the MFC agreed to earmark another $25,000 to cover the difference between the bid amount and the amount that was approved at town meeting. So we should be good to go. According to the architect, we don't expect the need for a large contingency. This project is pretty straightforward. The brick building HVAC and weatherization project is now complete. I was able to tour that with our facilities department and everything looks great. We're going to be paying that bill soon. More renovations in the town hall bathrooms and the mechanical room. Both bids came in relatively strong or in our favor. So we awarded the project to Fort Meadow Builders, both projects, and specifically the bathroom expansion, we had bid it out as 2 bathrooms or 3 or 4, hoping that the costs would not exceed $50,000, and they came in right there. So we're going to be able to do all 4. And the mechanical room expansion also will allow for adding a water softening unit, which should help with some of the problems that we saw in terms of flooding and overloading the pipes. CPA projects, we signed a agreement with a designer, Lula Design. Hope I'm saying that right. Lula Design Studio. They're going to be designing Dimmitt Park with the subcommittee that's overseeing that project design. So that should come before the town next year. For Cranberry Bog Dam number 1, we have signed a contract with Sumco. They're going to be doing the emergency repairs caused by the animal burrowing. That'll shore up the dam in time for us to bid the phase 1 of the reconstruction project in the spring. And And then phase 2 of the project is the, if you remember, the larger, more controversial discussion about spillways, et cetera. That's going to be informed by the hydrologic studies, which we should be getting any day now. So 3 parts. We're going to do the emergency part now. Phase 1 in the spring should really shore up the dam, and then phase 2 will be the final part. Building construction projects, nothing new in the library. Police station renovation, we were going to remove the dirt this week, the dirty dirt. The dirty dirt will move next week because of the weather, but we have that all squared away. Once that's done, the project will move into its more straightforward phases of just construction. For fire station renovation, both of your proposals with CMS and Tecton have been executed, so we're good to go. Tecton has developed an aggressive design schedule that will start next Monday. They're meeting with fire department staff and going over some of the design elements that have changed since town meeting, all within your budget and parameters. They will now work with the fire station building renovation committee as it gets off the ground, and they still believe that we can make the annual town meeting timeline in May. So that would be great.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about the DP. I'm sorry, was there a question? Nope. Okay, I'll move on. The DBW building, you met with Lero tonight and discussed that project. So we'll be taking the notes from this meeting and recommendations and moving that project forward as well. Some upcoming discussion topics. Of course, the FY27 budget is going to dominate a lot of your agenda for the next few months. The Bog House is coming back to you for more discussion with the CHT and our town planner, Julie Mercier, and CPC. That will be part of your next meeting. You know that we're going to be doing more personnel policies with Aubrey, and some of the policies we're moving into now will involve more discussion like tonight's did on parental leave. And you have also scheduled a goal review for your annual goals that will help inform my new town administrator goals once you are done with my evaluation. I did approve 1 Rotary sign under your policy that fell within the parameters. And then I have 1 staff recognition I would like to make this week. So Talene Shamlian from the library. So many residents are already familiar with the tremendous contributions she makes as our teen and children's library and reference librarian, but her dedication and creative programming are consistently recognized by families across the community. And more recently, she assumed additional responsibilities when we had a temporary vacancy in our children's librarian position. So this helped bridge a critical staffing gap and ensured uninterrupted services at the library. She did this because she loves the library and she's a strong employee, and it's an example of people stepping up to fill in gaps when we need them to, and we very much appreciate that. She is a notable example of our versatility and resilience, and she always steps up, but in particular, this was an important time too. So I doubt that anybody noticed the lapse in coverage, even though we lost a key employee at the library. So thank you to Talene and our entire staff for their hard work, and we're excited to onboard our new children's librarian, Jill Sorius. I have attached an agenda for you to review after this meeting, and many of the topics I discussed in the report will be coming up for your discussion. And unless there's any questions, that is my report.
Great. All right. Let's quickly move through the remaining items here. So we have warrants and minutes from November 18th in the packet for review and approval. Does someone want to make a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from November 18th meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Barney, wake up.
Mute.
I'm on mute. Sorry, I had one
No.
comment on there.
Okay, go, Travis.
But it's more of it was just a typo, I think.
Yep.
Under my section at the end, Travis Snell's noted the municipal steering committee. I think it's municipal facilities committee. Other than that, it was good.
All right. so
Sorry,
we
I
will
was
have
muted.
Yep.
Arnold, I.
Modell, aye.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, aye.
aye, and we'll incorporate the one typo correction. All right, let's move on to cemetery deed transfer requests. We have four deeds. If someone has the motion in front of them. Number 11.
I can do it.
Okay.
I move to transfer land in the public burial ground at the Green Cemetery described. Deed 859 to Samuel Gould, formerly of 111 Pinebrook Road, Lot D, 182, Graves 1 and 2. Deed 860 to Jennifer Bush, 68 Church Street, Lot D, 164, Graves 1, 2, 3, and 4. Deed 861 to John Richardson, 547 Westford Street, Lot D, 356, Graves 1, 2, 3, and 4. And finally, deed 862 to Charles and Arlene Davis of 29 Woodland Road, Lot D, 187, Grave 1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion or deliberation? And Ryan, do these also need signature tomorrow? Are these part of the packet?
If they're ready, then we will have them out.
Okay. Otherwise, I'm assuming we can sign it. All right, let's take a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Modell, aye.
No, I.
Stevens, aye.
Rolla, aye. All right, liaison reports. Any hot topics? I think we'll be getting a lot of information over the next couple of meetings.
Yeah, the cat is going to come next meeting on the Bog House. Town meeting study committee is going to meet finally again this week to try to wrestle down this final report. We're all exhausted and
Yep.
want it to be over.
Like town meeting itself.
Yes.
Anything else? All right. Let's move on to community input. Does anyone from the community have any additional comments beyond what we discussed tonight? And Christina, I replied to your email. I will get that cover letter finalized tomorrow to send out.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, seeing no additional community input, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
quick voice vote, everyone at once. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Good night,
All
everybody.
right, thank you all for your extra time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, good night.
Night all.